The regular meeting of the Aurora City Council for Monday, February 26, 2024 is called to order. Will the clerk please read the roll?
Mayor Kaufman.
Here.
Councilmember Bergen.
Here.
Councilmember Coombs.
Present.
Councilmember Gardner.
Here.
Councilmember Hancock.
Here.
Councilmember Drinsky.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Medina.
Here.
Councilmember Murillo.
Present.
Councilmember Sundberg.
Here.
And Mayor Pro Tem Zvonek.
Here.
There's a quorum.
I recognize Councilmember Coombs for a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mayor. So I just wanted to announce that after discussion with the community members who reached out on behalf of the ceasefire resolution, it will be pulled from the agenda. There will still be the opportunity for folks to speak during the public invited to be heard on non-agenda items.
Point of order.
Yeah, Councilmember Bergen.
I believe people that signed up for an agenda item would not be able to speak during non-agenda items.
Let me defer to the city clerk.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Bergen. I could not. You were coming in and out with your microphone.
Sorry about that. When people signed up for the agenda item, so it's different than non-agenda items.
Right.
So if it's being pulled from the agenda, they would have an opportunity to speak when it comes back the next time on an agenda item.
Right, but except if they signed up for public invited to be heard before the meeting started at 6:30, those individuals can speak during public invited to be heard.
On non-agenda items or agenda items?
Non-agenda items, but I'm going to defer to the city attorney's office. We previously spoke about this with the item being pulled from the agenda before public invited to be heard and before the agenda item. I believe that it's okay for them to speak since the item's no longer on the agenda, but I'll defer to the city attorney.
So items can be pulled. If a council member is sponsoring an item, they can pull that under the council rules at any time prior to the adoption of the agenda. That's what's going on. So Councilmember Coombs just did that. She just pulled her item from the agenda. The next question is, did the speakers make it in time to sign up tonight for public invited to be heard? Anybody that met the clerk's deadlines for signing up for public invited to be heard can do that on non-agenda items.
So is it too late for somebody to sign up?
Yes.
At this point,
invited.
right now, it's too late for somebody to sign up. If you signed up, what is our cutoff time, Katie?
At 6:30.
So
Okay.
if you signed up prior to 6:30, you can speak.
Okay.
You can't sign up now.
Okay, please join me in an invocation. O Lord, our God and our Father, we come to you and we ask that you would look upon this particular gathering tonight to keep us safe and guide us in our decisions. Bless our city with honorable citizens, industries, sound education, and good government. Unite our community together. Even though we come from different backgrounds, we pray that there be justice and peace in our city. Give the city council and citizens the wisdom, direction, and sensitivity to the business and proceedings before us tonight. Hear us, therefore, as we commit this meeting to the help of the community. Amen. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City of Aurora acknowledges that we gather on the territories and ancestral homelands of the Cheyenne, Ute, Arapaho, and Lakota peoples, past and present. We also recognize the 48 contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to the lands that make up the state of Colorado. Indigenous peoples have remained committed to the stewardship of this land over many centuries. As these words of acknowledgement are spoken and heard, The ties that these nations have to their traditional homelands and to their vital place in the ecosystem are renewed and reaffirmed, and we are called upon to be better stewards of the land we inhabit as we continue to work to meet the needs of our entire community. During executive session, we discussed personnel matters, litigation matters, contract matters, and again, litigation. Public invited to be heard. I'm sorry. Approval. A motion is in order for approval of the minutes for February 12, 2024.
Mayor, I move to approve the minutes.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Sundberg, seconded by Councilmember Hancock to approve the minutes of February 12th, 2024. Discussion?
Mayor, I need to abstain.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I need to abstain as I was absent that day.
Very well. Further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the approval of the minutes for February 12th, 2024.
Katie, I'm having e-scribe issues, but my vote is yes.
Okay. Mayor Kaufman?
Mayor votes yes.
Councilmember Bergen? Yes. The motion passes to adopt the February 12th, 2024 council meeting minutes.
Public invited to be heard. Council has created a public forum and wants to receive citizen input. Creating a public forum is not a legal requirement, but since council has created that opportunity, First Amendment protections apply. The forum provides the most protection for free speech, and is the most scrutinized speech by courts. You are asked to follow the same rules that council follows. Attacks of a personal nature are not permitted. Causing a disturbance is not allowed. Children may be present or may be hearing the broadcast of this meeting. We would ask that you refrain from using profanity. The mayor has been requested by City Council to admonish speakers for noncompliance. Public invited to be heard.
Okay, the first person is Heath Shelburne, followed by Crystal Dawson.
Yes. And let me remind the speakers there's a 3-minute limit.
Thank you for letting me speak on this topic. I'm here to discuss the plan by the city to rip out pavement on the Piney Creek Trail as it goes into the stormwater culvert underneath the Arapahoe Road and Liverpool. As it stands now, I believe this plan is a terribly bad idea for 2 reasons. The quality of life of the residents of the city of Aurora and the neighboring communities, and safety. As to quality of life, the city of Aurora annexed this land at the intersection and many miles east of it, added a lot of homes near the trail, near the creek, and the residents in that area have become used to having the Piney Creek Trail access through the tunnel and points beyond into the Cherry Creek Trail. And taking away this access would be taking away quality of life for recreation and transportation for those residents. As to safety, this plan, if it goes into effect, will force bikers, joggers, and pedestrians to not go through the tunnel, but to go up to the intersection, which many of you have been to, where you got to cross 6 lanes and sometimes as many as 9 lanes of traffic at a busy intersection. This is where not just adult riders like me, but children would be going to. I believe that that will be inherently more dangerous than the dangers that exist in the tunnel today. I do recognize those hazards with stormwater and ice and debris and runoff that are hazardous. But instead of giving up on keeping that thoroughfare for the residents and the neighboring communities, I think the city can come up with a better option. I know it won't be cheap, but I believe it will be worth it, both for the quality of life for the residents and for the safety of our kids. Thank you.
Crystal, Crystal Dawson, followed by Hadi Usman.
Hello, I'm here representing the Arc of Aurora. We are a local nonprofit that supports and advocates for people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, or people with IDD. I'm here as we have some concerns around the potential privatization of the indigent defense in Aurora. This issue affects our community because people with IDD are more likely to need a public defender, as they are more likely to experience poverty and are...
I'm so sorry, but
Oh, yeah.
we need you to speak during the agenda item and not in public invite.
Okay, yeah, I just signed up and
Thank you.
wasn't sure. Okay.
So if you're here to speak on an agenda item, we really need to wait for that agenda item to come up. And not, public invite to be heard is for non-agenda items that are not, that we will not be discussing tonight or voting on. What's that? Okay, that'd be 11A4, and please sign up with the clerk for 11A4.
Hayati Usman, followed by B. Haddad.
She was here if she signed up before.
My name is Hadi Usman and I'm 8 years old. In the last 145 days, more than 15,000 children have been killed. Thousands have been forced to leave their homes. People in Gaza are eating grass, but there is barely any grass left. The people of Palestine cannot sleep because they don't have a bed to sleep in. Thousands have become orphans. I think each of you should join me in stopping the violence in Palestine. This is not a war, it's a genocide and it must end.
Okay, B.
Mayor.
Haddad.
Councilmember Coombs.
A point of order, just so folks know, under the Aurora Council rules, any clapping, cheering, booing, shouting, snapping can result in the mayor deciding to recess the meeting and no further comment being accepted.
Thank you for reminding us.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. I stand here before you as both a Syrian person and a Jew, asking that you consider passing a proclamation or a resolution in favor of a permanent ceasefire in Gaza, which includes allowing desperately needed humanitarian aid into Gaza, the release of both Israeli and Palestinian
Don't touch the mic when you're done. Just leave it, walk away.
Israeli hostages and Palestinian political prisoners, and an end to all U.S. military aid to Israel. A person named Barash Shaheen, who's on the ground in Gaza, posted the following last Sunday. Today, when I woke up and stepped out of the tent to charge my phone, I found a little child, 6 years old, sleeping under a truck in the street. I woke him up and asked him why he was sleeping there, and he said, quote, my whole family was martyred in Rafah, and I came under the truck so that no one would see me and they would run me over and I could go back to my family. Bara goes on to say the child was very pale, and I took him to the medical point in Rafah, and shortly after I asked the doctor about how he was doing, and the doctor said that the child had died from severe cold. I just want you to bear in mind that generally speaking, people, humans, kids, sorry, I keep touching that, do not understand the idea of mortality until they're around 10 to 11 years old. So the fact that a 6-year-old baby is wishing for death should scare and alarm us. As of a few weeks ago, the WHO estimated that 100,000 Palestinian people have been injured, lost, or killed since the 7th of October. I ask you why it is acceptable in your eyes for this to continue with seemingly no end in sight. I also just want to say this.
We do not have some sort of inalienable right to drop 2,000-pound unguided bunker bombs on each other. We are responsible for each other. We do not have a right to kill each other. We do not have a right to allow genocide to continue. And we do not have a right to sit by silently as this continues. My upbringing has instilled in me, as a Jewish person, the belief that we must do everything we can to safeguard and protect life, which is sacred. This concept is called pikuach nefesh, with the holiest law in Judaism, which the observance of allows Jews to violate almost every other Jewish law. Please be brave and take a stand and help me and the other Jewish folks here tonight observe this law and help stand up for the rights of 2.3 million Palestinians living under apartheid and brutal military occupation. Be the voice of my Palestinian cousins here with me tonight and that you also represent. Thank you.
Ian Coggins. Ian Coggins. Okay. Sanel Krasalak. Okay, Bradley Bruce. Okay. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. I'll try to speak into the mic here. My name is Bradley. I'm a resident of Denver. And I just want to start by asking, could everyone in the crowd that is here in support of Palestine please stand up for one moment? Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much. So that was actually more than I even expected to stand up. So I just want to let you guys know that that is what we were here for today. Now, obviously, you guys are no longer voting on the ceasefire resolution, but I still wanted to talk into support of a ceasefire resolution in the future. So Gaza, as we all know, has been under occupation for the last 75 years under the Israeli apartheid state. And for the last 140 plus days, Israel has been committing unwarranted genocide on the Palestinian people using American weapons and American tax dollars. The absolute least thing that we can do in this situation is tell our elected representatives, you all and our federal representatives, that we do not want this to keep occurring and that they should not be using American tax dollars and weapons to do this. And I just want to point out, I know Americans are notorious for centering ourselves in situations like this, but I want to do that. I think that might be helpful. Yesterday, active duty U.S. Airman Aaron Bushnell killed himself yesterday on the steps of the Israeli consulate or the embassy in Washington, D.C. And I just want to speak some of his last words since I think they are very important. So he said as he was walking up to the Israeli embassy, "I will no longer be complicit in genocide. I'm about to engage in an extreme act of protest, but compared to what people are experiencing in Palestine at the hands of their colonizers, it is not extreme at all. This is what our ruling class has decided will be normal. Free Palestine, free Palestine." At this point, he ignites the liquid that he has poured all in himself, and he is now actively on fire. He continues to scream, "Free Palestine, free Palestine," muffled screaming, one more time, "Free Palestine," and then he crumbles to the ground on fire as paramedics put him out of fire. And we have seen he is right. Based on the horrors that what I have seen, which is just a percentage of what the Palestinian people have put up with, he is correct. The death of being caught on fire and dying on the ground is nothing if not representative of what the Palestinian people are going through. And the reason that this is occurring and the reason that Americans are killing themselves in this way is because their representatives are not listening to us. He is the second American in less than 3 months to kill themselves on the steps of an Israeli building. The first one was in Atlanta at their consulate. So I just want to make sure you guys are aware that we will not stop no matter what. There will be free Palestine. Thank you. I yield the rest of my time.
Shannon Nicole Norris.
Hi. My ask should be pretty simple then. The Gateway Post Office on Abilene, a lot of drug guys coming in there, sleeping, using drugs. It's had to be closed at night, and it's not fair to the employees or to the people that use the post office. Can y'all help? I've called the police. I'm sorry, Aurora. I've called the police. It just doesn't do any good. Is there anything you guys can do?
Let me have the contact information, and let me get back with you. But the post office we don't control it. It's federal.
Right, but
Yeah,
if,
but I understand
if we could
that
just
they
make a
try to-
stink.
I will contact you. And
Yeah,
we'll
thank
discuss.
you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Katie, can I
Councilmember.
also get contact information?
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. Ann England? And, I'm sorry, Dylan Maury?
I want to make sure you can hear me. Good evening. I'm also was intended to come here to speak on behalf of the ceasefire resolution. You know, when I first heard that Aurora was voting on this, I wasn't even sure if I wanted to say anything. I don't have a personal connection to the area. I am not Palestinian myself, unlike some of the very brave individuals who are standing behind me. But I did want to come speak because something about this this tragedy does resonate with me. So there's been a report from a Egyptian nonprofit called the Sinai Foundation for Human Rights, and it's reporting that Egypt is now building 7-meter concrete walls for refugees, Palestinian refugees, to escape from Gaza. And when I heard that, I was reminded of my own history. Because in 1942, my grandparents, who were Japanese Americans, citizens of the country, were taken from their homes in San Francisco and locked up in what a lot of you might know as internment camps, but I call concentration camps. They were taken from their homes because they looked like the enemy. And when I saw this story, I was reminded of the quote that history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes a lot. And I could sit here all day and quote the statistics that you all have heard. 30,000 Palestinians have been killed by the Israelis. The expulsion to Sinai has been a long-standing colonial project. But what I want to say is, I want our city to do the right thing. There are people in this room, people all over the world who are saying, enough. How many dead Palestinians is it going to take to stop this? So I thank you for letting me speak. Please call for a ceasefire. I yield the rest of my time.
Asil Shahada?
My name is Asil. I am a proud Palestinian who has lived in Colorado for 30 years, and I'm asking you to support a pass and a ceasefire resolution. I want to tell you about a young girl named Hind, a 5-year-old Palestinian girl traveling with her family, fleeing fighting in northern Gaza, when their car came under Israeli fire. Hind and her 15-year-old cousin, Layal, survived. The rest of the family instantly killed. Layal called paramedics, pleading for help, but she was also shot and killed by Israeli fires, leaving Hind alone between dead bodies of her family. Hind was scared, crying, pleading for help. 2 paramedics attempted to help Hind, but Israeli tanks surrounded the car and the ambulance, preventing any chance for rescue. 12 days later, Hind's body was found along with the 2 paramedics who attempted to rescue her. When I look at Hind, I see my daughter. If my family's history was different, it could have been my daughter. Hind's story is one of over 30,000 innocent Palestinians who have been slaughtered. This includes more than 8,000 women, many of whom pregnant, and over 12,000 children, leading UNICEF to call Gaza a graveyard for children. It's been 142 days of Israeli forces dropping bombs on Gaza, demolishing over half of the homes, 360 residential units. That's over twice as many homes as there are in Aurora. 142 days of Israeli forces destroying the healthcare system, leaving only 11 out of the 35 hospitals partially functioning. 142 days of Israeli forces destroying 392 schools and 267 places of worship. 142 days of Israeli forces killing 99 journalists, according to the International Federation for Journalism. Genocide is taking place in Gaza. According to the ICJ, there is a case to be made against Israel for committing genocide, and the world is failing to stop it. But we in Aurora must do our part. Although this issue may be seen as divisive, I have met people from all types of backgrounds who are supporting a ceasefire, and I trust in the ability of our community to stand together as a whole on this difficult topic. You may think your vote will not make a difference or change anything, but it will. Your vote will make a ceasefire more likely to happen and prevent more suffering from taking place. Your vote will give a space for more effective resolution to take place that will reduce suffering. Please vote for passing a ceasefire. Thank you.
Emily Hernandez Elmore.
Hello? Okay. My name is Emily Hernandez Elmur, and I am here to speak on behalf of the ceasefire resolution. I don't really know how to start this. I didn't write anything down because it seems like there's always too much to say, and where does one begin? Should we begin in 1948 or, I don't know, any other attacks that Israel has put forth on Gaza since then? I want to mention Aaron Bushnell, the man who lit himself on fire in protest. Is that enough? Is that what it will take? Are our words not enough? Are our screams not enough? We're begging for anyone to hear us, to stop the slaughter of Palestinians. How many of us would it take to be lit on fire? I don't know if it will be enough. I don't know if we will be heard, and it scares me. This has been going on for 5 months now. That's too long, in my opinion. And how can we speak about Ukraine and not give Palestine the same attention? I want to mention some personal stories. I've been speaking to people in Gaza. I have a friend, Ahmed. I found out today that his home was bombed. He doesn't have a home anymore. He lost his friend and his uncle. And when I speak to him, I don't know what to say anymore. I don't know what to say anymore. And I don't think he knows what to say either. He's told me he wants to die because it's easier than any of this. I also have a friend, Nagham. She works in the Al-Aqsa Hospital. She works endlessly to save people's lives. And one time I asked her, she sent me a photo of a patient she was working on, and I said, what was his name? And she told me, I don't know because we don't have time to know these people's names because there's too many of them. People are on the floor being treated. There's blood on the floor while people are, the disease that's spreading, there's no medicine. I have a friend, Khalid, and he's been with chills, fever, and vomiting, and he cannot get any medicine because he can't afford it. It's just so many stories like this that exist, and we're over here and feeling like we come to you because that's all we can do. That's all we can do. Come to you and come to our federal representatives, which they don't seem to be listening to us because they have their own private agendas. And then as for speaking on peace and whether a ceasefire would bring peace or not, because I've heard that some people believe it wouldn't bring peace, how does that make sense? How does that make sense? Ending violence will not bring peace. It doesn't. Is that my time?
You're through, yes.
Thank you.
Jennifer Samano. Jennifer Samano. Okay. Okay. Diane Daphne.
Hello. My first time here. Not too impressed, but anyway, y'all need to speak up louder when you're talking in your microphones. It's hard to hear you. Anyway, I'm not sure if I filled the paper out correctly, but I'm here regarding the mess going on in Aurora with the so-called the migrants, whatever you want to call them. I want to tell you a story that happened to me. I've lived in Aurora for 30-some-odd years.
I'm sorry, you're here to speak on the resolution concerning migrants? I'm sorry, well, could you, when it comes up, we'll have you speak at that time.
Okay,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Abdul Karim Khan.
I dedicate this to Aaron Bushnell. My name is Abdul Karim Khan, and I have the privilege of managing the healthcare of more than 100 patients a day. Imagine if the genocide happened in Aurora. Imagine more than 80% of our homes and infrastructure destroyed, all our colleges and universities bombed, entire neighborhoods wiped out. Imagine more than 29,000 Aurorans killed, of whom more than 12,000 are children and 7,000 are women. Imagine 65% of our population of Aurora forcibly displaced by a genocidal army into an area that is 7 square miles long, that is the size of Fort Lupton. Imagine the population of Fort Lupton swelling more than 30 times its current population size. Imagine having one toilet to 700 people, people living without aid, and now are being deliberately starved and massacred by that same moral army. That is what is happening in Rafah as we speak. Imagine our hospitals like University, TMCA, VA, Children's Hospital, all bombed out and being besieged. Imagine our Aurora doctors, nurses, paramedics, and their patients constantly being shot at by enemy snipers, being abducted, tortured, and killed. More than 400 healthcare workers have been killed in Gaza, more than any other country in conflict since last year and every year since 2016. We wouldn't dare allow this to happen here or in Israel. Why the hell are we financing these war crimes in Palestine? This is about people like you and I, day laborers, healthcare workers, teachers, journalists, regular people, children being massacred in the tens of thousands, genocide. And yes, it is also about the Israeli hostages. Just like the Palestinians, they too are facing a constant barrage of Israel's genocidal bombing in Gaza. And equally important are the 10,000 Palestinian hostages, including children, held by Israel prior to October 7th, of whom many have been raped, tortured, and killed, and their lives matter equally too. We healthcare workers care about all lives, unlike some of you council members here. And tonight's vote, if it were to happen, will expose who those members are. And don't you dare tell us that passing this resolution won't make a difference politically. Remember, this council went out of its way against the majority to condemn Hamas to gain the political cover to carry out this genocidal barbarity. And even if you lie and tell us that we're all for peace, but vote no because it won't make a difference politically, then might as well vote yes and be on the right side morally. But you know it will make a difference. It'll add pressure to end this genocidal belligerence. Do not distract us with the same lame excuses that is causing polarization. We're out here supporting a ceasefire while the other side is cheering on the genocide of an entire nation. I don't want to use my hard-earned tax dollars that I raised saving lives here to be used to terrorize and murder men and women and children over there. That would be hypocritical to my Hippocratic oath. Let us all unite on the guiding principle of healthcare workers to do no harm. That is the bare minimum, and that is what the ceasefire in Gaza will accomplish. Let us all be pro-Semitic and unite on Jewish and Islamic precepts that whoever saves one life, it is as if they've saved the entirety of humanity. Just like there's going to be racist Holocaust deniers, there's going to be racist genocide deniers here as well. History will judge us all today. Are we going to continue to practice selective humanity, bigotry, and hypocrisy, or be on the right side of history, fight for everyone's right to life, freedom, and equality? I ask you all, how many more Palestinian children have to be killed for us to call a ceasefire? Open your heart, silence those prejudices just for a moment. This genocide has been going on for 140 days. Do the right thing, do it now, call for a ceasefire. Thank you.
Jeffrey Murad.
Honorable members of City Council, distinguished guests, and fellow residents. My name is Jeffrey Milrod. Today I stand before you not only as a proud member of our larger community, but also as an individual who values open dialogue and the importance of understanding diverse perspectives. I identify as an anti-Zionist Jew, and I believe it is crucial to recognize that anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism are distinct concepts. Anti-Zionism, at its core, is a political stance questioning the legitimacy of the State of Israel or opposing specific policies enacted by its government. It is important to acknowledge that diverse opinions exist within the Jewish community regarding the Israeli state. And being an anti-Zionist Jew is just one example of this diversity. However, it is crucial to emphasize that anti-Zionism should not be equated with anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is an abhorrent form of discrimination targeting Jewish people based on their religion or ethnicity. As a society that values equality and fairness, we must differentiate between political opinions and discriminatory ideologies. It is imperative for us to recognize that conflating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism not only oversimplifies complex issues, but also diverts attention from urgent humanitarian concerns. We are neglecting the grave plight of the Palestinian people who, while we are debating semantics, are currently enduring unceasing displacement and violence. It is essential for our community to engage in conversations that address the root causes of conflicts, fostering a more nuanced understanding that acknowledges the human rights of all individuals involved. Only through a comprehensive and compassionate approach can we contribute meaningfully to resolving long-standing issues and work towards a more just and peaceful coexistence in the region. I envision us working together to build a city, a world that embraces inclusivity, tolerance, and the rich tapestry of opinions that contribute to our shared experience. That said, in order for us to build such a space, we need to call for a ceasefire now. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Sarah Napier.
Danielle, can you look me in the eyes, please? Thank you. I heard you are traveling to Israel. I'm sorry, Palestine. And you're going to help, slaughter people. Well, Danielle, we will remember you as someone who has aided in war crimes, and you will be voted out, and you'll have to sit up here and you say that this is not an Aurora issue, then why are you going there? I am an educator and I work with children, and I look them in the eye and I cry every single day because they deserve better. All children deserve better, to live in a world where adults actually care about them. Do you care about children? Because I don't think you do. 140 plus days. You have turned a blind eye, sat comfortably in your seats, and done absolutely nothing. 140 plus days of actual humans with moral decency pleading for you to show up and do your job. Well, guess what happens when I don't do my job? I get fired. Well, you're going to get voted out. We are tired of this being our reality, that we have to stand in front of you and ask for you to be a decent human being, to have a moral compass, and to be an actual human. Palestinians are not disposable. Palestinians are human beings with lives and dreams. They share 99.9% of the same DNA you do. But unlike you, Palestinians believe in life, peace, and are not cowards. You took an oath to sit in your seats, to listen to the people, while the people are speaking across faiths, across political parties, to end the genocide of innocent people, both Palestinian and Israeli. Because like we said, we believe in life. Do you? I looked you up before I came here to speak today because I wanted to see how you got here and what you care about. Since you aren't doing your jobs, I thought I would call you out. Allison Coombs ran on the platform of dignity, connection, and responsibility. She writes that she cares about public safety, dignified housing, economic justice, and quality of life. Well, Allison, I have one question for you. If this is your political stance and what you care about, then why don't you care about the quality of life, dignified housing, and economic justice of Palestinians? Is your life and my life more important than Palestinians? Crystal Murillo also ran on the platform of Housing for All as well. Once again, I ask the same question. Do we only care about housing issues of people where we live? She's not even looking at me. Because currently, 80% of the Palestinian population is displaced from their homes. I guess they don't deserve housing rights too, right? Angela Lawson writes that she cares about the aging population.
Ma'am, your 3 minutes.
People are dying, so.
Khalid.
Yes, they do.
Khalid Marab.
Thank God for that. Hello, council members. I actually came to speak on the migrant issue, but one of my chaltos told me, come talk on Palestine. And what do? I listen to my elders and I listen to the women of my life. Councilmember Coombs, your heart was in the right place, but Councilmember Coombs was the one, language. Councilmember Coombs was the one who wanted to bring the ceasefire resolution here. Also, Councilmember Murillo voted with us last time. What more can I say, though? Danielle, you are a bad person, and I know I can't ad hominem attack you, but you are going to be, hopefully, you know what happened at the Nuremberg trials? They didn't just try soldiers. They didn't just try generals. They didn't just try Hitler. They didn't just try all those people. They tried the people, they tried male workers. They tried everyone who helped and abetted the genocide. And what are you doing next month is going to be abetting that genocide. And I hope you see our faces. I hope you see the face of every child that dies. I hope we haunt you for the rest of your life. Every single day for the rest of your life. I hope you don't get to sleep good at night. And I know I'm really angry right now. I don't even want to come speak about this, but why do Palestinians always got to come here? Why don't I always got to come here and relive my trauma? Why do I always got to live here and relive my dad's trauma? You don't know what it's like to be Palestinian. You guys will never know what it's like to be Palestinian. And it doesn't stop with us. Today you're going to be talking about Palestine. Do Palestinian lives matter? That's what you're going to be arguing about today. Do Palestinian lives matter? And you can't even vote on it anymore. Very savvy move by you, actually, Councilmember Coombs. Very smart. But we can't even vote on a ceasefire resolution today. But the problem is that if you don't defend Palestinian lives today, they're going to come for you guys tomorrow. They're going to come for our migrants tomorrow. They're going to come for our unhoused people tomorrow. They might come for white people one day. Who's going to save you guys? Who? I'm white, but hopefully someone got me. But Sorry, I'm like, everyone who knows me knows I'm an unserious individual. I like to make jokes all the time, but I have to get up here on this stand and get serious all the time. I gotta get here and tell you why my life matters, why my brother's life matters, why my dad's life matters, why my uncle who died's life matters, why my grandpa's life mattered. And you know what? You guys don't care, and I don't want you to care. I don't really care if you vote for a ceasefire resolution. I really don't care, because I know in this crowd, I see a million people who love me. And on earth, more people love me than will ever love you. No one will love you. Your God doesn't love you. My God doesn't love you. And if you're atheist, I don't know who else loves you. No one loves you. No one loves you. No one will ever love you. Anyways, and you, Steven Sundberg, I got a lot more to say to you, but I'm not going to say it. And Mike Kaufman, yeah, sure, when he went to Iraq, some people got caught in the crossfire. Why were you in Iraq? Why? Why were you there? I love our service members, but you know who doesn't love our service members? Mayor Mike Kaufman, because you know a lot of people who are homeless, you know a lot of them are veterans. And you lived with them for a week, so you think you know what it's like to be homeless. You don't know, my brother. Anyways, I don't even know what to say. I hate you guys.
Israr Haq.
Good evening. I was here not too long ago, and we just wanted to add a little word Palestine with a support model for Middle East at that point a couple of months ago. And you guys shot it down. I'm sure that the history will judge you on your act that day, and it will act accordingly when the next resolution comes up for voting here. I don't know what will be the results, but I want to speak about it. I'm bringing the same notes which I had last time. It actually has not changed a lot. A couple of more US resolutions, some data from American Red Cross. These are all international humanitarian people who are there in their fair capacity and being bombed and everything, but they are still persistent to help these people. A lot of things, as I said, I've already went through all what has the Israel state done in the last 75 years. But what has changed from last time to today is that when we met last time, the people who died in Palestine, I think the number was 13,000. And today when I came this morning, I checked, it was hovering around 40,000. And actually that's not the right number, to be honest. I just read a social media post a couple days ago where a father is trying to dig a rubble of the building in a hope that his son will be there at the bottom somewhere in that rubble. And since he doesn't have any help to get that body out, he's been doing it for the last 10 days. So imagine what emotions are involved here, what type of effect our decision-making here has on the people there. And I don't want to take a lot of your time here, but I think a couple of people have talked about active serviceman Aaron, and I have all the, here are my other notes. I think, yeah, he was not a Muslim, he was not an Arab, and he was not even a Palestinian. Why would he do that? Because he was a human being. And as a human being, we all need to consider all effects of our decision-making here. So please consider when this comes up next time for voting to vote for it. And I yield the rest of my time in silence for the next 1 minute or so in memory of all the people who have died in Palestine. And
Bashir Malik.
Hello, my name is Bashir Malik. I'm a U.S. Army veteran.
And I serve this country, and I love this country. This is a great country. But unfortunately, a lot of us have forgotten humanity. I am against ceasefire. I don't want you guys to vote for it. You guys won't anyway. You know, you guys won't pass the ceasefire resolution anyway. Nobody can afford or nobody can, dare to make Israel mad. You guys are scared. I mean, it's a political thing. And let me tell you guys what. The best thing can happen is let Israel kill all the Palestinians. Take all their land. That's what they want anyway. Then they're going to move on to Syria, Lebanon, and other countries. This is what they want. And they are thinking this way, by killing and a lot of bloodshed of children, they will have peace. They will have a lot of peace, tranquility, security. I don't think so. You guys are mistaken if you guys support them for that. Send them money to just kill those, gas those children instead of the drenched in the blood. You guys have no humanity left anymore. I can tell you guys because you guys are afraid of. Israel has money. They got power. They got might. They don't care. They are too arrogant right now to make a ceasefire and help the God. They're digging their own grave. This is not going to go in vain. All this bloodshed is not going to go in vain. They're going to self-destruct themselves one day. And maybe that will be the real ceasefire. Jews will get, Israelis will. See, I'm afraid of calling Jews because I'll be anti-Semite. They have instilled so much fear in the world. And this propaganda of theirs and lies of theirs, they think, nobody can say Israel is a terrorist state. Nobody can dare. Or nobody can put sanctions on Israel. Nobody can dare do that. Because they are such a might right now. Uncle Sam is opening the pocket for them. Here, take whatever you want. There is going to be no peace for Israel, I can tell you guys what. You guys think this is how they achieve peace. They're going to have land, they're going to kill all the Palestinians, and like you said, then they're going to move on other humanity. Jews brought the humanity or civilization to this world. They're going to end the civilization of this world. They're going to end the way they're acting right now like a pig. Loose pig. They're going to end the civilization. And you guys, if you guys vote for them or favor them, you are part of that being a pig. I'm sorry to say that. But believe me, city of Aurora is not going to pass any resolution against Israel. I know that. So I am against Israel. It's not going to work. It hasn't worked so far. So the only way it's going to work is Israel is too strong. Nobody can do anything to them. They are so high and mighty. They are right now so arrogant. But I tell you what, they're going to self-destruct.
Okay, that was the last individual. Mayor, that was the last individual.
Mayor.
Councilmember Jornsky.
Yeah, thank you. I would just like to respond to some comments made and give appreciation to the very thoughtful comments that were made. But I don't know if there's an article out there.
Councilmember Jornsky has the floor. Please proceed.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to kind of clear the record. I don't know if there's an article out there or something that has misconstrued what I'm doing. I am going to Israel. I am paying my own way. I am not in any way going as a representative of Aurora or anything to do with Aurora business. And I am not going to fight. There's businesses that need help. There's businesses that need help, and I have been told it's not just Israeli businesses, it's Muslim businesses.
If I can't get control, we'll recess. We will recess. Please proceed.
I just wanted to clear the record because the comments made it, I think apparently it sounds like I'm going over there on behalf of the city to fight in this war, and that just is absolutely not true. And I just wanted to clear the record.
Are there further comments? I just want to make one. I introduced a resolution earlier saying that we will focus on the business at hand that we have jurisdiction on, and that we will not do things that waste time that we have no control over as a local government. And so I will be reintroducing that again.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
point of order, folks are free to speak about whatever they would like to speak about during public invited to be heard.
A motion is in order for the adoption of the agenda. Sorry, Councilmember Coombs.
Move to adopt the agenda with the removal of 11A5.
Very well. Is there a second?
Second.
It's moved by Councilmember Coombs, seconded by Councilmember Murillo. Is there further discussion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Councilmember Gardner.
I'd like to motion to approve the agenda removing 11A4, 11A5, and suspending the rules to only allow 30 minutes of public comment for each agenda item.
Second.
Okay, 11A4, 11A5. I'm sorry. Okay. I believe that will require a two-thirds vote.
Requires a vote of 7.
Okay.
Mayor.
Okay. Well, let's get the motion done first. Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Gardner to limit discussion on each item to 30 minutes.
That's correct, and also remove 11A4 and 11A5 from the agenda.
Very well. It's been moved by Councilmember Gardner, seconded by
Hancock.
Councilmember Hancock. Discussion?
Mayor,
Councilmember Jaworski.
call for the question, please.
Motion to call for the question.
Mayor, point of order.
Councilmember Murillo.
Just want to, from a process standpoint, just highlight that the call for the question is to shut down all
Right. And it is
council
a
comment.
non-debatable motion, and so.
It was a point of order, so I just want to clarify
No,
if
I'm
that's
sorry.
a call for
It
the
is
question.
a non-debatable
But
motion.
just for the
That's the
public to
nature of
know.
a call for a question. It's been moved by Councilmember Jaworski, seconded by,
Second, Zvonik.
seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Zvonik. Call for the question.
Mayor Kaufman.
Mayor votes no.
The motion passes with 7 yes votes, 4 no votes to call for the question for the amended agenda.
Very well. Now we're back to the Gardner motion. Further discussion. The time is now 7:29. We will stand in recess until 7:35, until 7:40. Okay, we did the adoption, now it's consent calendar? No. We did consent calendar. The regular meeting for the Aurora regular meeting of the Aurora City Council is now back in session. Yeah. Okay. The question now before us is the Gardner Amendment. Is there any further discussion on the Gardner Amendment?
There is no more. It's a call for the question.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was a call for the question. So now we're, Katie?
Yes,
Where are
right
we
now
at?
we're voting on the adoption of the agenda with Councilmember Gardner's amendment to suspend council rules to remove item 11A4 and suspend council rules to limit public comment for 30 minutes per item.
Mayor, point of order. 11A5 is not included in that motion.
Councilmember Coombs, you've already removed 11A5, so it's
Okay,
off
so
the agenda.
it doesn't have to be voted on, okay.
Very well. I'm still not clear. So we need to vote on the Gardner Amendment.
Yes,
And
council's voting
there
on,
was a call for the question on the Gardner Amendment, am I correct?
we already voted on that.
Okay, we voted on the call for the question, and now we're voting on the Gardner Amendment.
Correct.
Very well. There's no discussion due to the call for the question motion. And so call for the question on the Gardner Amendment, which is the removing 11A4 and 11A5, which has already been removed from the consent calendar. Call for the question. And limiting to 30 minutes.
That's correct. Mayor Kaufman,
Mayor votes no.
Councilmember Medina? No. The motion passes with 7 yes votes, 4 no votes from Councilmember Coombs, Mayor Kaufman, Councilmember Murillo, and Medina to adopt the agenda with amendments.
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
Point of order. So this motion was not made prior to public invited to be heard on agenda items. This is an issue that directly impacts our Aurora community and the ability of people to access justice. I would like to make a motion that in order to respect the First Amendment rights of all the people here to talk about this item, if y'all want to rise, that we reopen public comment on non-agenda items for an additional hour to allow the folks who came here to speak, believing this issue was on the agenda, to speak.
Okay, so I'll take that as a motion.
I would second that.
Mayor, point of order.
Councilmember Borden.
I didn't think we could make a motion on, there's no item to make a motion on.
Well, okay, so, well, I think I think legally, it has to pass, right? The motion has to pass. Very well, okay, so, it's been moved by Councilmember Coombs and seconded by
Murillo.
Councilmember Murillo that public invited to be heard be open again for purposes of individuals being able to comment on, what was the agenda, on a non-agenda item since it's been removed from the agenda. Discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Bergen. Please be seated.
This is unprecedented because we closed public invited already.
That's correct. It is unprecedented. Further discussion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
it's also unprecedented to remove items without the consent of the sponsor, where backup has been provided and the resolution has been provided in advance.
Further discussion.
Mayor.
Let's see. Councilmember Gardner.
It's in fact not unprecedented. When we went through funding for nonprofit organizations last year, in fact, there were organizations where they were on the agenda and we removed them from the agenda without the sponsor's approval. So in fact, it is not unprecedented. And specific to this item, it's been debated to death. And I think, most of these speakers we've heard here, we are in the process of doing an RFP. There's going to be plenty of opportunity in the future for these speakers to comment. There's going to be plenty of opportunity for council to hear from these speakers. There's been plenty of opportunity up until now. There's really no reason other than political grandstanding, frankly, for the sponsor to have put this item on the agenda. Once this item, this RFP has played out, there is going to be plenty of opportunity for council to debate this item. And speaking frankly, the sponsor and some employees from the Public Defender's Office are doing themselves a significant disservice by continuing to push this in the way that they're pushing this. I'm just going to be honest. But this is not unprecedented. So that's why I made the motion that I did.
Further discussion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Murillo.
I don't know if I really know where to start here. I wholly disagree with this move to, I wholly disagree with this move. Just on so many levels. I think the premise of the sponsor to bring this forward is to exactly call into question the process that this body has voted on, which I think is wholly her right to do that, and I don't think that that is. Sorry, I'm just having a hard time processing everything that's happened tonight, frankly. But I support calling the question, really the intention of this process that we've allowed to unfold. So frankly, I agree with the premise of this resolution, and I don't agree that we should be putting it off. I don't agree that we should be limiting public comment in the way that we have. To me, we're just chipping away at the public's ability to have input in our city government. And I just keep seeing this trend. We've called for the question. We've shut down debate. When does it stop? Really? When do we draw the line around who gets to decide what is allowable? Frankly, I'm tired of the public getting shut down for speaking up when this is one of the few opportunities that the public has to opine and to weigh in. And I think that's not something we should set the precedent for. I wholly do not support the decisions that the majority of this body have taken, not just in this meeting, but especially in this meeting with the prior agenda item and this one. I'm at a loss for words aside from that.
Further discussion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
there are quite a few people in this room here to speak today that have not had the opportunity to address this council on this item, including teachers, social workers, other folks that are part of our community, and members of the NAACP, state legislators that represent our city and our county that will be also impacted by this RFP, who are just being told to sit down and not speak. And I want to be very clear that that is what's happening by adopting the agenda in this manner and not allowing agenda items to be heard.
Further discussion. Seeing none, call for the question on the adoption of the Gardner Amendment. I'm
No,
sorry.
Mayor, this is for Councilmember
Oh,
Coombs' motion to
Oh, I'm
reopen public invited to be heard for 1 additional hour.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's the public invited, amending the public invited to be heard to allow it to occur on item number 11A4, even though it's been removed from the agenda. Further discussion? Seeing none, call for the question on the Coombs amendment to amend the procedure for public invited to be heard.
Mayor Kaufman?
Mayor votes yes.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Mayor votes yes.
The motion does not pass with 4 yes votes, 7 no votes. The yes votes from Councilmember Coombs, Mayor Kaufman, Councilmember Murillo, and Councilmember Medina.
Would the clerk please read let's see, where are we at here? Would the clerk please read the title to item number, where are we at? Oh, okay. A motion is in order for the approval of the consent calendar as amended.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs.
I move to approve the consent calendar with 11A3.
Councilmember Coombs, Mayor, I'm sorry, we're at consent calendar for motions. Item 10C1 is the only item on that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What's that?
10C1 is the only one.
Move to adopt 10C1.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilmember Coombs, second by Councilmember Bergen to approve item number 10C1. 10C1.
Mayor,
Further discussion?
Mayor, is your microphone on?
What's that? Okay, I don't know, it says that it's on, but it doesn't seem to be working.
I can't hear him. Okay, Mayor, we have Councilmember Coombs and second by Councilmember Bergen to adopt the consent calendar for motions, which is item 10C1.
Call for the question on the adoption of the consent calendar as amended.
Mayor Kaufman?
Mayor votes yes.
Councilmember Lawson?
Yes.
The motion passes to adopt the consent calendar for motions.
Next question before us is the adoption of the consent calendar, resolutions and ordinances. A motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Coombs?
motion to adopt the amended consent calendar with 11A3 removed.
11A3. So she's going on A1, A2.
But 11A4 has already been taken out.
That's fine. And A6. She wants to call the question. Let's do it. And B1, thank you.
The question before us is the consent calendar for resolutions and ordinances as amended. Is there further discussion?
Mayor, can you clarify what the changes?
She pulled 11A3.
So she's just pulling this one and then we'll amend it.
Is there further discussion? Call for the question on
We need
the,
a second.
adoption of the consent calendar, resolutions and ordinances.
Katie Sam.
I need a second. We have the
was there a second?
motion.
I'm sorry. Moved by Councilmember Coombs, seconded by
Murillo.
Councilmember Murillo to approve the consent calendar, resolutions and ordinances as amended. Call for the question.
The motion passes to adopt the consent calendar for resolutions and ordinances with item 11A3 removed for separate consideration and items 11A4 and A5 removed.
Will the clerk now please read the title to 11B1?
11A3
Oh, 11A3?
is Resolution 2024-16 regarding the systematic transportation of migrants and those experiencing homelessness into Aurora from other municipalities without communication and coordination to address the financial impact and impact on city services. And Mayor, we do have people from the public who would like to speak on this item.
Very well.
Okay. The first person is Khalid Marab. Okay, and I guess Jennifer Piper. Nada Benitez.
Do I start?
Please proceed.
Hi, good evening.
No,
Okay,
please
do I
speak into
start?
the microphone. We can-
Hello? Perfect. Okay. Okay, good evening, city council members. My name is Naida Benitez, and I am an immigrant who grew up in Colorado. I currently reside in Ward 4 in Aurora, and I also work at the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition. CIRC is a statewide membership-based coalition of over 80 immigrant, faith, labor, youth, community, and ally organizations. We were founded in 2002 to improve the lives of immigrants and refugees by making Colorado a more welcoming, immigrant-friendly state. But today I'm really here to talk to you on my own behalf as an undocumented immigrant who grew up in this state. And since last summer, I have been living here in Aurora. My family and I would not have left our home country if it were not absolutely necessary. We uprooted our entire lives and migrated here for better educational and employment opportunities in the early 2000s. As I said, I moved to Aurora last summer because I wanted to be around more diversity of people and of thought. And it is comforting and encouraging to know that over 100 languages are spoken in Aurora alone. Seeing people from many different cultures and walks of life makes me proud to live here and call this city my new home. So it was incredibly infuriating to learn that the City Council brought forth this anti-immigrant resolution, which, let's face it, is mostly symbolic, and it will be detrimental to public safety, as marginalized communities like newcomers will feel even less comfortable trusting local law enforcement or elected officials. Instead of calling on local nonprofits to close their doors to people in need, our elected officials should be urging our federal government to create transparent, humane, and efficient legal channels for people to apply for asylum, create more work permits for immigrants in the U.S., pass a pathway to citizenship for undocumented people, and to provide coordination and resources to cities, communities, and nonprofits that are welcoming newcomers. The U.S. should be resourcing ports of entry to facilitate safe and efficient entry. And additionally, city officials should focus their efforts on addressing the root causes of the housing crisis and other real issues here in Aurora versus drafting harmful xenophobic resolutions. And before we start scapegoating immigrants, we should look at the root causes of migration. What is causing migration? What is the U.S.'s role in destabilizing countries abroad? We live in a country that allows historic levels of income inequality and spends 60% of its discretionary budget on weapons and war, like what is happening with the genocide of Palestinians. If we make different choices where to place our tax dollars, the capacity to support migrants is much larger. Instead of throwing more money at policies that have funded walls and detention, policies that have failed for almost 40 years, we should instead put that money into efficient and dignified immigration processes. Lastly, I just want to sit here as somebody that's an immigrant here, that grew up in this state. We serve your food, we clean your houses, we build your roads, we upkeep your yards. We are students, we are teachers, social workers, organizers, nurses, and business owners. We do not just live here, we have built Aurora.
Your time
So I
is up. Thank you very much.
I ask for a no vote on this resolution. Thank you.
Shadeen Salem. Shadeen Salem.
Hello, my name is Shadeen Salem, and I would like to echo the comments of the person before me. A few days ago, this council considered a resolution that repeats baseless information that would punish nonprofits and faith communities who provide services to newcomers. The resolution attempts to send a message that Aurora is against newcomers and groups offering welcome. The resolution's only effect will be driving fear and scarcity in Aurora. Newcomers and long-term migrants will think twice before contacting law enforcement, accessing public health services, or approaching nonprofits. Despite recent edits that may remove some of the most offensive language, if the resolution passes, some nonprofits and faith communities will feel the city is not a partner they can trust or approach when supporting newcomer integrations to Aurora, and some newcomers will be pushed into the shadows unnecessarily. The purpose of the resolution is political, not practical, repeating myths and spreading unfounded rumors that Denver or mystery nonprofits are busing immigrants into Aurora, a lie for which there is no proof. And I want to just stress the fact that we are the last people to be against immigrants in this country when it's founded on the immigrants that founded this country, when they didn't belong here, when the Native Americans are the ones that welcomed everyone into the country. Thank you.
Julian Camara. Hashim Coates. Q Fawn. Hashim? Oh. Okay.
Good evening. My name is Hashim Coates, United States Navy veteran, and I am utterly disgusted. I'm disgusted with fellow vets that are sitting up here and let this type of thing happen. I'm disgusted with the women that are sitting up here and letting this type of thing happen. And you know damn well I'm disgusted with the black people that are sitting and let this type of thing happen. If I was an immigrant, I might believe someone's narrative that people were cooning, that people were actually that they were anti-women's rights, that they were just here for political gesture. So it's really discouraging for this type of thing to happen, especially during Black History Month. I'm most disgusted with the black people up here. Self-respecting is a word that I can't use to describe you anymore. Angela, I've had your back in some of the hardest situations that has cost me friendship over principle, only to see this type of stepping and fetching behavior occur. So disappointed in this. How can Aurora call themselves a city of immigrants, or a world-class city, and celebrate things such as Global Fest? What does an all-American city mean? Is this city council going back to being that white flight town of when black people were able to move into areas in Denver and the Klan had to find a new safe haven in Aurora? Is that what I just see happen tonight and signal here tonight? The sheer utter disgust I have just cannot be used with if I use all the words in Merriam-Webster. But I know you don't care. So the best that I can do is hope that the treatment that you all have bestowed upon others fall upon you, fall upon your loved ones that you know now and into the future as well. It's a crying shame that you all choose to limit the First Amendment rights, to limit the rights and voices of people who are here, especially those of you with the last names like Jurinsky and Sundberg, names that are not known to this land unless your people were sent here as criminals from Europe. Those are not indigenous of this land. Those are not the values that we try to set out as Americans. That is not what I signed up for the military to fight and protect. This type of behavior is disgusting. I'm going to use my time.
Q, Fawn.
Good evening, council members. My name is Jo Vaughn, and I am an immigrant and long-life resident of Aurora, Colorado. My family and I have grown up in Ward 4 for 28 plus years now, and I work with the Colorado Immigrant Rights Coalition as a community organizer, and I'm here today to speak on behalf of my family, who are immigrants, and the community of themselves. My family and I came to the U.S. around 1996 due to the casualties of the Vietnam War. As many immigrant stories go, we uprooted our entire lives for the opportunities for a better life. My story is not unique when we're acknowledging the cause roots of migration, but when we really boil it down to the core root, the simple answer to why most people migrate is family. And Aurora has been lucky enough to witness the growth and positive contributions that our immigrant families have created as the most diverse city in Colorado. Having lived here all my life, my family and I have been active members of the local community. We have even seen some of you, especially you, Mayor Kaufman, at some of the local Asian celebration events where we've heard promised support for our communities. So it is very disheartening and disappointing to see that this council is trying to pass this very anti-sanctuary and anti-immigrant resolution. The hypocrisy of priding ourselves to be the most diverse city and yet having the audacity to even consider this ridiculous and xenophobic rhetoric is mind-blowing. Many members of our communities are already willing to support and assist newcomers. Nonprofits, organizations, and volunteers have already stepped up to provide essential services, demonstrating the true spirit of compassion and solidarity as an understanding that our community is stronger when everyone can participate. We have seen throughout history that policies don't influence whether people will come or not. As long as there are things such as oppression, climate change, and state violence that continue, people will find a way to migrate to survive. When the U.S. is the reason for people's displacement, we need to take accountability in serving those who seek our help in the aftermath. We have the money, $25 billion worth, that we're using for an unjust war and genocide, when we should undoubtedly call for a ceasefire and use that money to reinvest into the needs of our communities and actually address the issues that are needed to be heard: housing, healthcare, and the resources needed for our immigrant communities to live a dignified life like my family and our Aurora residents have had the opportunities to do so. By entertaining this resolution, you are telling people like me and my communities that we are only useful when it benefits you in the election. My family has been fortunate enough to all become citizens and are happy to utilize our voting rights and encourage our friends and family to do the same, since it seems that's the only time you would ever listen to our voices. I urge you to empathize with the needs of our newcomers and the people here today to vote no on this anti-sanctuary resolution. Aurora needs to finally reflect the values and belief of our diverse community once and for all, or risk losing the very thing that makes us powerful. Thank you for your time.
Julian Camara.
Good evening. My name is Julian Camara. I'm a community organizer with the ACLU of Colorado. We strongly urge a no vote on agenda item 11A3 and are concerned about the moral and legal implications of this resolution. There's a fundamental right to travel under the Colorado Constitution, and through this resolution, Aurora is indicating that migrants and unhoused people are not welcome in the city. The efforts in this resolution to declare Aurora off limits to certain communities is concerning both morally and legally because it goes against the very principles that drive our Constitution. Migration has always been a common human experience. Immigration is never going away. People will always be moving from place to place. Efforts to criminalize and exclude people from Aurora is unethical and it's unrealistic. Cities must be flexible enough to adjust to the high influxes of immigrants, and this often means designating higher portions of the city budget to go towards local service providers instead of jails, policing, and detention centers. There's a larger world problem that's taking place, as we've seen here tonight, and someone asked how this impacts Aurora, and it all impacts Aurora. What happens in one community happens to all communities. Our taxpayer dollars go to things locally, and they also go to things nationally, and they also go to things worldly. It's all connected. Local elected officials in Aurora need to make Aurora a safe and welcoming place for all people while holding federal and state elected officials accountable to policies that allow people to flourish no matter where they live. ACLU of Colorado strongly urges a no vote on this resolution, and we hope that Aurora City Council will instead explore ways to work hand in hand with Colorado service providers and local immigrant communities and model a people-centered economy that welcomes and protects the fundamental rights of all people. Thank you.
Ryan Collins.
Hello, my name is Ryan Collins. I'm an Aurora resident. I own a home in Aurora. I was born in Aurora. I have a law degree from the University of Denver School of Law. I initially was surprised at tonight's meeting, but the more I think about it, I guess the more I shouldn't be surprised. We have a body of members elected with laws that would make the Jim Crow South proud, members who serve in at-large positions, who do not represent individual districts, but instead spread out the votes of those with the most resources in the city, enabling them to have more access to the city council, hold elections and off-year elections hidden behind laws to make nonpartisan elections so that those without resources, those without political know-how, without donation from large political groups like the GEO group that runs prisons in our city and other astroturf conservative movements, you all set up the system to rule over the people of Aurora, including the immigrants who call this place home, including the criminals, or so-called criminals who you lock in your jails. You did not seek election to lead. You do not have any basis in leading the city to a brighter future. Mr. Gardner, you do not. Mr. Kaufman, you do not. Everyone on this council knows deep in their hearts that the immigrant community in Aurora is Aurora's biggest strength. That the migrant who is sleeping on the street tonight in 1 year, 5 years, 10 years is the same migrant opening a restaurant, working, paying their taxes to pay for your salaries on this board. Everyone on this council knows that for every immigrant that comes into Aurora, our tax base grows, our ability to succeed in the future greatens. Everyone knows that. Cities across America are sitting in same seats just as yours, unsure how to keep their small cities facing large outward movement from their city to other cities, trying to figure out how to replenish their tax bases, trying to figure out how to fund their schools as their residents move onto other places where there's more opportunity. But our council today does not like the type of migrants who are coming to this city. The majority of council members on this body have racial biases against the migrants who are coming to this city, and that is the only reason why those members on this council are moving to discredit them, to say that you're not welcome here. That is the only reason. Every one of you knows that logically, if you look at the numbers, if you look at what's good for the city, if you look at what's good for the country, if you look at what Jesus would tell you to do, would know that that is to welcome everyone who wants to live in Aurora with open arms, to fall hand over heel, head over foot, to find a place to make them work in our great city, find a place to have them to live. And you all who support this should be ashamed of yourself. You can bang that louder if you want. I'm not going to stop talking.
Dylan Morey.
I'm afraid you can't get rid of me that easily. I'll formally introduce myself this time. My name is Dylan, and I live in Ward 3 here in Aurora. When I first moved to Aurora, do you know the kind of messaging I heard about it even before I moved here? I was told it's a global city. It's a city of immigrants. We love the cultures. We love the multitude of languages that are spoken. We love the great food. So I ask you, if you have so much love for the culture, where's the love for the people? When I saw that states like Texas and Florida were busing migrants to other states to have them, quote unquote, share the burden, I was upset. Who are these states to use people's lives as political pawns? But I also knew it would bring out some of the racism and xenophobia that I know exist everywhere. And I was not wrong. It makes me ashamed that it's come here, brought forth by two of our own, City Council. I've heard the justification for this. We don't have the resources. The federal government should be doing more. And they absolutely should, believe me. I have plenty of criticism for failures on the federal side, don't you worry. But what do you propose we do then? We can't keep people from moving in, and we know that our counties and cities are already growing. So why not allocate the resources now? Or are we just going to spend all our time shuttling these poor people throughout the Denver metro? Where will it end? And on that note, have you ever personally asked why migrants are coming here to begin with? If you look at the United States, as some previous speakers have very aptly pointed out, I'm sure the actions of our country have had a hand of why these people are coming here to begin with. And I just want to end this by saying, the idea that Aurora might cut funding for migrants and the homeless, do you know what message that sends me? It's you telling us it's not our job to care about people or to take care of people. And if you're saying that it's not your job, then why are you even leading our city? Thank you.
James Coleman.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council. First, I'd like to apologize for all of the previous speakers. You know, I also am a Navy veteran, and I can recognize the disrespect and the vitriol that has come out of the mouth of some of these people. I've heard you guys called baby killers. I've heard you called genocidal. I've heard you called racist, xenophobic. It is absolutely ridiculous, the amount of people who have sat in this hall tonight and seem to have no clue what the purpose of a city council is. It is not to pick a spot on the Palestinian-Israel divide, which is an enormous issue with so many political implications. We can't possibly solve that here, nor do we have any business bringing up such a divisive issue here at the council. This is supposed to be the place where we talk about street lights and we talk about curbs and gutters and maybe the green belt didn't get mowed. And you know, we'll even talk about the migrants because I heard you guys called everything in the book because you might possibly want to do the oath you held, which is to respect my tax dollars. You are fiducially responsible for my tax dollars. And I get angry when people sit here and think that we can feed every person in the world that pours across our southern border. We simply cannot afford it. It will bankrupt our city. And what about the homeless people? Don't we care about the homeless? These are people that need our help with drug counseling and a job. Nothing's going to keep you sober without a job. But your job's going to be gone because Denver wants to give work permits to the migrant hordes that pour across our border. It simply can't be afforded. It has no business even being discussed at this level. All we're talking about is a simple ask for money. Either quit sending them our way or give us some money to deal with them. I don't think it's an unreasonable ask. I think it's something that unfortunately we're going to have to discuss because we can't afford it. But at the end of the day, I appreciate those of you who do this month after month. You get attacked, you get called names. I can't believe the names you guys got called tonight, and I apologize to each one of you. Some of you couldn't even speak your mind, and it's a damn shame we've gotten that disrespectful here in the city of Aurora over issues that don't even happen here. Thank you, Mayor and City Council, for your time.
Tanya Tabachek.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. When I came in here at 6 o'clock tonight, I work 9:30 to 6. So by the time I got here, I guess I missed the limit of an hour of people that spoke and had nothing to do with Aurora, maybe 2 things. So I did not get to speak my mind on public speaking because I came at 6, which I couldn't afford because I work until 6. So that's one point. Second point is dealing with migrants and so forth. I listened to Councilman Jurinski and Councilman Sundberg. They did not say anything about not allowing welcoming migrants into the city of Aurora. I listened to this study session. Okay, a couple weeks ago, I had somebody come to my house from North Dakota knocking, asking for food and water. Okay, that's my safety, that's my house. We need to take care of citizens in Aurora. We have homeless people. We have people. Denver, buzzing in people. They don't know where they're going. They just go, oh, well, I'm in Aurora. Or people from Texas, buzzing people in Aurora. Oh, I'm in Aurora. You know, they're on the streets. You know, you have now the people, the homeless people, the people that live here in Aurora, going to people's houses. This is my home. This is my safety. You need to take a reference of it. And I just wanted to say that, and my mom also called in before 6:30, and she heard people talking in the background. She was hung up on. You know, we have people living in Aurora. I've been a Aurora citizen of Aurora for over 20 years. I am an Air Force veteran. I live in this city. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, we have one person on the call-in line.
Aaron, go ahead. You have 3 minutes. Aaron, on the call-in line, you have 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was on mute. Thank you, Mayor, esteemed Mayor and Council, for giving me this moment to speak. So I'm actually just going to, revert back to what Hashim said, because he's absolutely right. Because at the end of Black History Month, we're discussing a bill regarding migrants and not being allowed here in Denver. I read the bill earlier, the resolution, before I called in to make sure I knew what I was going to say. About 2 weeks ago, I gave a speech about my grandparents and their history in developing Aurora, the Mosleys, John and Edna Mosley. And I can tell you right now that the way the resolution is written, saying that we're not going to provide resources to migrants if they're transported here, and we're going to punish the transportation drivers, that's unfathomable. They're rolling in their graves right now. So is Charles Burrell. So are all the other immigrants. About 2 weeks ago, Councilmember Gardner recognized a migrant who came to the city who sells great bakeries and is very active in the community. And then a week later, we're basically telling her, oh, no, if your family comes here, we're not going to support you. That is rooted in racist, discriminatory tropes that doesn't belong in Aurora. We're supposed to be a diverse city. I've said this before. My girlfriend's daughter, literally coming from Conifer, looked at a sign on Havana that was written in Spanish that said Aurora was the number one city for families. It was written in Spanish. What happened to the thought of welcoming our Spanish, our migrant people like that? It's a shame that we can't go back to that same mentality. I really wish that everybody on council would take a deep breath and think about how they're going to vote, because this is important. They're going to tell people either they're welcome or they're not welcome. And that's all I have to say. Thank you for giving me the time to speak.
Okay, that is the last person we have.
Motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Jurinski.
motion to approve item 11A3.
It's been moved by Councilmember Jurinski, seconded by
Sundberg.
Seconded by Councilmember Sundberg to approve item 11A3. Discussion?
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, I'd like to offer what I hope to be a friendly amendment. And I don't know if, Katie, did you get the amendment? Yeah, okay. So what it would do in section 1, we're just striking in the first sentence, where it starts to say for temporary housing without the city first being given an opportunity, we would strike from for and end at municipalities, and then pick it back up where it says we call on the federal government. And again, I don't know if we can show that up on the screen, possibly. Otherwise, I can just read it.
No, it's not in our backup.
No, we sent it to her too late to get it back there. I apologize.
Councilmember Zvonek, we can try to send this to IT for them to put it up there, but I don't have authority to put anything on the screen right there.
No, just the white. It is in the backup?
It's an e-scribe.
Is it?
Can you clarify what you're amending one more time?
Yeah,
Councilmember
so just to be clear, so what I would suggest we do is that we would eliminate, so it'd be a full stop, I'll just read it, it'd be easier. In the section 1, where it says the city council affirms remaining a non-sanctuary city and asserts the city does not currently have the financial capacity to fund services related to the crisis, and demands that other municipalities and entities do not systematically transport migrants or people experience homelessness to the city, period. And then we would pick back up where it says we call on the federal government.
Mayor?
I'm sorry, Councilmember Jorensky?
Yeah. I will accept that as a friendly amendment. I would also just like to add that what I find to be really inhumane, and this isn't people being bused from state to state, within our own state, we have other cities busing people into Aurora. We don't know a lot of times, it seems, when they're coming, where they're being dropped off. They obviously don't know where they are. And I find that to be inhumane. And, you know, if cities are going to bus migrants into Aurora, we are not a city in a county. We do not have the funding that Denver has to sustain this. And, you know, I don't know if the Denver residents are okay with their rec centers, you know, being scaled back and shut down and their hours cut and the DMV shut down every other week now. But here in Aurora, we're not shutting down our rec centers. We're not doing any of that. And we don't have a county budget to sustain it. So nowhere in this resolution does it say that we will no longer welcome migrants or celebrate migrants in our immigrant communities. Nowhere does it say that. This specifically addresses funding and a simple good neighbor heads up that they're even being bussed in, because this isn't just happening from state to state. This is happening from city to city within our state. So that is what that is. That's really what this resolution is about. But I will accept the friendly amendment.
Mayor. Councilmember Sundberg.
Just a couple comments based on this and what I've heard this evening. This American experiment with our Constitution, as we are a nation of immigrants, despite our problems, despite our weaknesses in this country, obviously we are still a city on a hill. We are a beacon of light to a good number of the world. An article in The Economist the other day, a little while back, said that if they could, more than 180 million people would come to this country if they could, nearly doubling our population. My wife is an immigrant from Rwanda, Africa. She escaped a genocide on foot and lost family members. She survived another war after that. It took 2.5 years to get her to this country on 3 visa attempts. I lost contact with her during one war for a month and didn't know whether or not she was alive. She loves this country. She's been here since 1998. She's become a citizen. She's a successful realtor with a tremendous amount of repeat business from the East African and Central East African community. I'm around a lot of immigrants. Thanksgiving at my house is 26 people, and there are 2 white people there. I'm one of them. It's a celebration. It's a celebration, Mayor. So this is about what's fair, humane, and compassionate. What's realistic with fiscal responsibility. A local newspaper who's quick to criticize us and use selective outrage journalism conveniently ignored the fact that Colorado Springs did this very same thing essentially 6 weeks ago. The mayor of Colorado Springs is an immigrant from Nigeria. Mayor Yemi said this: "I am empathetic to the situation these families are facing. It's also important to acknowledge and share that in Colorado Springs, we do not have the resources to host this population, and we are clear in that message. We will not invite this crisis into our city, and we are not a sanctuary city." That's the mayor himself. Now, you look to our neighbors to the west, Denver, they are strained. This is not sustainable for them. They're dipping into other programs. I don't think our residents are ready for that. We are simply being realistic. Housing. I'm a big advocate for affordable housing in this city. I've gone to bat for state credits and opening ceremonies, and I will continue to be, but we do not have the housing. We have to be realistic. This is a federal problem, largely. Our federal government has failed at this, and we're paying the price probably for years to come. This city has an Office of Immigrant Affairs, and they do an excellent job. The Office of Immigrant Affairs does such a great job and sets a high example. They teach their principles to other cities in like the City Municipal League. Their goals in this city are to integrate immigrants and care for them. They want them to buy a home. They want them to own their own business. That's we the city. We want them to learn English. That's part of the process, that's part of their mission. And they ultimately want them to become citizens. And ultimately, hopefully, take their shot at the American dream. It's still possible for a lot of people. I support that. But I'm simply being realistic, and we are stating to our citizens that we have a fiscal responsibility and our resources are limited.
Mayor.
Councilmember Bergen.
Thank you.
We are to the amendment.
We still need a second.
I'm sorry.
Right there.
Well, Councilmember Bergen.
We still need to address.
Oh, to the amendment.
Okay. I'm sorry. There is a friendly amendment at the desk offered by Mayor Pro Tem
I'll second.
supported by Councilmember Jeniski and Councilmember Sundberg. So I don't believe that requires a vote, does it?
If council, I believe Councilmember Sundberg did the second, so if.
Yes.
Do we need to vote on this?
No. So now you have the original motion as amended by Councilmember
Okay.
Zavala.
Yeah.
Or Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yes.
So we are now on discussion to the
actual motion.
to the motion as amended. Councilmember Bergen.
Thank you. Yeah, this resolution, as has been stated, is about our resources. We have a lot of needs in the city. We hear from our constituents every single day about needs that they have, whether it be medians that need to be finished, or parks that need to be developed, or just road infrastructure. So many capital needs that we have that are currently not funded, that we are having to make sure that we can budget accurately, and we don't have the resources to offer these services to migrants that are crossing the southern border and coming in. I mean, there's been 8 million migrants in the last 3 years that have crossed the United States border, and we are a welcoming city. We love our immigrant community. This is not about not supporting our immigrant community. This is about a crisis that has affected major cities, and Denver itself is a sanctuary city, and that they ended up being a target to have the migrants, bust from the southern border, or from Texas to Denver. And the fact is, we don't have enough housing for everybody, citizens that live in our city, let alone migrants that are coming across. I think, we have a growing aging population. The Denver, I think it was in the Denver Post recently, talked about the Colorado's over 65 population ranked among the fastest growing in the nation. And we need to take care of our older adults. You're not supposed to say seniors anymore. But we need to take care of our older adults as well. And so we need to prioritize effectively and make sure the monies are going to go to where we were voted in to take care of. So I am supporting this resolution. Again, it is not to be divisive. It's just a reality. We don't have the monies, as was stated earlier. We're not a county. We're within 3 different counties. So I hope people understand that. Thank you.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
Sorry, Councilmember Lawson.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. So I want to speak to this. I know some of the hate mail that I've gotten that, I'm discriminatory towards immigrants. That is not true. What this resolution is about is coordination and being fiscally responsible. That's what it's about. We want to make sure that we're going to, I want to ask the citizens of Aurora, please don't respond. Do you want services to be cut? No. Being at large, but being more so at a Ward 5 council member, graffiti, garbage, all on the streets, trying to help the homeless that we have already to house them and to get them into places. Having enough weeds, everything, neighborhood issues, streets, roads. We only have so much money. We're not saying we're not going to help them, but it's coordination, and it's also to make sure that we have the money allocated so we're not taking away services from people. I have friends that live in Denver. They're very upset because they can't go to the rec centers. Their children can't go to the rec centers. A lot of the services are being cut and continuously being cut. And it's a serious implication on their quality of life. We owe it to the city, residents of Aurora, to make sure that we have adequate services so we're not cutting. We're already stressed as it is. When I sometimes do council requests, it's like, can we get someone over there? It takes some time. Do we have the resources allocated? We have to budget. So I'm supportive of this because it's about coordination and it's about actually making sure that we have the financial means to make sure we keep our residents and what's going on as well in helping our city maintain a good quality of life. And I don't see where this is a discriminatory, that's what it's about. So for the narrative for people to contact council members and say you're racist and you're this on migrants, I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous to me. But people can say whatever they want to say. But I do support this because we do have to make sure that we have enough the resources and the services to make sure that we can keep our city where people want to come to Aurora and stay and not leave. So I will be supporting this resolution.
Further discussions?
Mayor,
I'm sorry.
I also wanted to, in this resolution, it doesn't say anything about prohibiting nonprofit organizations or groups to assist migrants and those who are experiencing homelessness. And the hyperbole that has been whipped up to make it seem like that this council is against migrants and homeless people and veterans, which I am one and I am proud to say that I am, is ridiculous. You elected us, the citizens of Aurora elected us to be good steward of your dollars, good stewards of the resources, and to represent this community to the best of our ability. Now, you're not going to like everything that happens, but this resolution simply states that we need to be good stewards of our resources. Now, if you're looking at Denver right now, to Councilmember Lawson's point, someone is losing money on their job. If the libraries are closing, that means someone who makes probably $15, $17 an hour, they're not being paid. So at the expense of people who work, who are trying to support their families and make a living, you're asking these folks to give up their livelihood. And is that fair? Would you be the person that would want to give up your livelihood in supportive of your family? This is not a race issue, so don't make it one, because it isn't. This is about us being fiscally responsible members of this community, governing this city to the best of our ability. Please allow us to do this. This is what we do. There are organizations in this city I know of, Mateos and AEOC, and a lot of these groups that help migrants, to help them find jobs, open businesses, be what is the principle? What is the principle? The principle is for government to protect individual rights. That's what we're supposed to do. Protect your right to be a citizen of this community. Citizens work. Citizens are self-restrained. Citizens are able to be contributors to the community. We can't just keep giving without the resources. It breeds contempt. And it really doesn't help us to be a good, productive country and a good, productive city. This is what we're trying to do, folks. And so I support this resolution because no one should be put upon like this. It's not fair.
Mayor.
Further discussion. Councilmember Murillo?
Jurenski.
Jurenski, I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So I just want to double down on some of the points that my colleagues have made. Something that we have prioritized for as long as I've been on council, and I think Councilmember Lawson started it before I was on council, is youth violence, which is a huge problem plaguing our city. And you know, and not just our city, but in Denver too. And I have heard many residents of Denver have told me they are very concerned about where their kids are going to go now, where their kids are going to go after school, where, you know, what they're going to do, how they're going to essentially stay off the streets and do something productive. And so I wanted to double down on that point as to why we are taking a stance on we are not going to shut down and close off our resources, our city taxpayer-owned facilities. It's just not up for negotiation. But again, this nowhere does this say that nonprofits, churches, organizations can't help these people. We are making the statement, we don't have the money, we don't have the resources here. The most inhumane thing that can continue to happen is to bus these people into a city that is making a public statement that we cannot help them. We can't. We do not have the resources. So when we talk about being inhumane, that is what is inhumane, is to bus these people here who, most of them, I believe, do not speak English. They do not know where they are at. And there are zero resources here. That is what is inhumane. And I see one of my colleagues writing very vigorously over there, so I'm sure I'll have to say something again here in just a minute. But that is the reality, and I'm not going to allow this resolution to be misconstrued. It's not happening.
Further discussion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Murillo.
Yeah, thank you. I don't support the premise of this in the least bit. I think hearing language like this is a friendly neighbor-to-neighbor heads up. If in the original draft it says we demand that organizations, we demand XYZ, that doesn't feel like a friendly what's up to a municipal neighbor, frankly. I think what I'm concerned and why I'm not supporting this is I'm concerned that this is spreading a narrative and a narrative of fear that we are pitting groups of marginalized communities, people in need, against one another. So I'm concerned that that's less for you. And these are choices. I agree that the feds have a role here and they need to be stepping up. I believe one of the senators even came to Aurora to talk to some of the organizations that are having to deal with this on the front lines. And frankly, I don't think there's enough being done. I want to uplift that I wholly agree that this needs to be addressed adequately at the federal level. And urge our federal partners to do something about it. The thing is, we didn't have to take a position. This was a choice that was made. Like, just bar none. If this is a federal issue, this is not even a city council issue, it was a choice that was made to bring this for a discussion. And what I'm reading in the language is not what I'm hearing in terms of the intent. So, yeah, I don't choose to buy into that narrative or spread that narrative that one group against another is even an accurate way of conceptualizing this issue. So I think we're spreading fear. We're sending a message of fear and concern. I hope we don't ever go that route of trying to hold nonprofits or any private entity that the government is going to try to interfere with their ability to do their work. I mean, I hear a lot of that rhetoric on city council for other issues, but I'm missing that here. Yeah, I don't support this. I think it's creating fear. It was a choice to bring this up, and we're sending signals of fear and doubt to individuals and organizations involved at any level of dealing with this situation.
Mayor?
Further discussion, Councilmember Bergen.
I just want to point out, Denver actually did make 15% cuts across all departments, and they actually have told their residents they can't go in person to the DMV, so it has to be done virtual. If you are a person who is disabled or elderly, now you got to go online to take care of registration and so forth. It definitely affects people's lives, residents' lives, and it definitely affects the budget, as was mentioned. So this resolution needed to happen. It needed to be done because we are getting criticized when we don't help migrants, and we are trying to tell the public we just can't do it, and we need to take care of our own residents first. They are our priority.
Mayor.
Councilmember Jones-Keith.
Yeah, thank you. It does say we demand, because I'm not sure that saying please in this situation is actually going to work. I don't know that saying that we demand is going to work either. But I have had constituents, several, I have had police, I have had several people throughout the city, so I don't know if the narrative is these people are just kindly being bussed in and you know, dropped off right where they're going to get slippers and you know, bedding for the night. I have constituents telling me that people are being bussed into this city in the middle of the night, in the dark, and just dropped off in neighborhoods. That is inhumane. That is inhumane. So I'm not going to say, please stop being inhumane. I am going to say, we demand that you stop being inhumane and dropping people off wherever you want at whatever time of day. We demand it.
Further discussion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Murillo.
I guess I'm just confused. Are we demanding, or are we being friendly to our neighbors about what's going on here? Because I've heard both, and I'm just looking for clarification. So my point remains that what the rhetoric, the message between the lines is clear. I hear you, I'm reading the amendment, I hear what's not there, but I think it's very clear the signal that this is sending and the fear that this is instilling. And I also want to recognize that it looks different than it originally did, so I commend the changes that were made, at least, but that's where it started. So to say anything other than that, when we can clearly see the original draft, I think is wrong.
Further discussion.
Mayor Sundberg?
I'm sorry, further discussion?
This current version here, I don't think has the word demand in it. The original may have, and that's why we take things to committee to hash things out. Am I wrong?
Are you sure that you update? This is the
Further discussion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
So I do want to thank the sponsors for making changes to the resolution and listening to nonprofits and community members who had concerns about that original draft. I think that this current draft certainly does not include some of the most extreme unenforceable provisions and government overreach that were built into the original. And I do thank folks for taking the time to have the conversations to change that. That being said, the political posturing in the whereas clauses of this resolution are still problematic. The statements on sanctuary and affirming not being a sanctuary jurisdiction is grounded in 2017 anti-immigrant Trump administration rhetoric that was opposed by immigrant communities at that time and is still opposed by those same immigrant communities. So folks can say all they want that this resolution is not harmful and unwelcoming to immigrants, but immigrants are telling you that you're wrong. You can tell them that what they have to say is false, but that is what the immigrants who live here in our city are telling you. The folks who came before you today are future amazing Aurorans. The people coming to this country today and into this city today are future amazing Aurorans. And to say, we don't want you here because we're not a sanctuary city, is to say, you know what, those other immigrants that were amazing Aurorans already and before, and that we love and that make our city what it is, we like them, but new ones, we're not really interested in any new ones. And that sets a really bad precedent for the future. We're full of immigrants, no more. That's what we're saying with the rhetoric that is coming out behind this resolution. And that, again, is what actual immigrants to this country who live in this city came to us today and said. So I think we should listen to them because I think they know better how this lands with our immigrant communities than we do as people that are not ourselves immigrants.
Further discussion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Bergen.
I have heard from other immigrants that actually agree with this resolution. So I don't know, you're talking to some immigrants, I've talked to others.
Further discussion.
Mayor,
Councilmember Drewski.
I would like to say the same thing. And a lot of the changes that you saw from its original form came from nonprofits, people that work in this space and work with immigrants, work with migrants, and it was all taken into consideration. And we have support from those nonprofits on this resolution now. And I have had several immigrants come to me that are very, very upset about what is currently going on, because for them to come over here, however they came over here, some of them had to find somebody in the United States to sponsor them to come over here. Some of them had to have a job lined up, get a worker's permit. Some of them have had to wait years and years and years for things that everybody coming across the border right now are just being handled. So actually, in the immigrant community, there is some disparity and there is some frustration because some people are still waiting for status in our country and have been working hard and giving back to the community and paying their taxes. They're frustrated. They're frustrated seeing what is going on. I had one tell me that they should just go back to their country and then recross the border now. So that's what I'm hearing. I know that there are several people that live in Aurora, and maybe we hear from different people, but there is also another side to this, and I appreciate the support from the nonprofits that added, their thoughtful input to change this resolution to help highlight the point that we are trying to make, that again, it is inhumane to bus people into this city, drop them off anywhere at any time, knowing that we do not have the resources here to help them.
Further discussion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Medina.
All right, let's see where I begin. I sit on multiple boards of immigrants from youth to adults in the city of Aurora. I just got to say that we got to really watch how we word things, because in the communities maybe you circumvent are different than the communities I circumvent. And mine are pretty much, a lot of them, they're the ones that are vulnerable. There's nonprofits that they ask me, do we need to move our operations out of Aurora because of this resolution? Because they feel that we don't want immigrants here at all. And they're not asking us for funding. I've told many of them, we do not have money because we are a city, we're not a city and county. They know that. So in here, we're not helping anybody anyway. It's all the nonprofits that are doing all the work. I know, I see them every day doing it. in these boards that I sit on. I see all the differences that are people make. We're scaring people in a way that we used to do this back in 2007 when I worked for the city in North Aurora. Specifically, it was Hispanics. We were scaring the heck out of them, and they were becoming profiled by police. That was a big issue back in those days. I know. I was on the ground during that time. I heard all of that. I heard how some on city called people from there those people. When I was in the audience, I'm one of those people. So when you make reference to something, I don't separate myself and all of a sudden become someone else. I am who I am, just like you are who you are. We got to really watch how we frame things, because we say one thing and what we think we mean, but out in the community, we're not conveying that correctly, and people are misinterpreting that because they're just hearing a few snippets. It's taken me to have to go and educate people and take my time to make them understand. I realize the changes, and I certainly applaud you for doing that. But I just think that these things don't need to always be pushed forward, because we weren't doing anything to begin with. The nonprofits have been doing that. It's a federal issue. Those are who we should be kidding to, is the state and the feds. We should be doing that. We should be pressuring them to do that, to help these communities so that we can get the resources we need, so that we're not relying on city resources. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, question before us is the adoption of item number 11A3. Call for the question.
Councilmember Gardner.
Yes.
The motion passes with 7 yes votes, 3 no votes from Councilmember Coombs, Murillo, and Medina.
Will the clerk now please read the title of 11B1 was included in the 13? Will the clerk now please read the title to item number 13A?
Item number 13A is introduction of ordinance 2024-04, amending sections of the city code pertaining to mandatory minimum sentences for retail theft in the Aurora Municipal Code to continue to combat thefts in the city. And Mayor, we do have individuals from the public who would like to speak.
I'm sorry, is there anybody
Yes.
to be heard?
Yes. The first person, Alexandra Jackson. Alexandra Jackson. Tim Babbage.
It's almost past my bedtime, so excuse me if I stumble a bit. For the past 14 years, it has been my privilege to work as a substitute teacher at Central High School, a school that, despite its reputation, is filled with amazing young people and incredibly hardworking and dedicated teachers and staff. I've also worked at Hinckley, Overland, Rangeview, Gateway, other Cherry Creek schools, Littleton, and DPS. I can humbly say that I know a great deal about adolescent behavior. So please listen carefully to the following. Adolescents do dumb things, and that includes shoplifting. Is it your plan to imprison them for doing so? Do you really think it's a good idea to put a black mark by their names, one that can conceivably keep them from enlisting and serving their country, as many of them do, that could keep them from being accepted to a university or getting a scholarship or other financial aid, could keep them from getting entry-level jobs at Walmart or Target or Amazon or any retail employer? Mandatory minimums for shoplifting is bad public policy. Not only that, but it doesn't work. Spend 5 minutes online and you will see overwhelming evidence that in all of the jurisdictions where it has been applied, it does not have a significant impact on crime rates at all. Although it does fill up jails and prisons, public and private. I've been involved in American politics for longer than some of you have been alive. I get it. Some of your constituents, some of whom wield some economic power, want you to do something about shoplifting. But it seems to me that in this era of privatization, this is the perfect place to do so. Shoplifting sounds like a problem for private security and not the APD. Encourage your constituents in true American tradition to help themselves. Heck, you could even pass some tax subsidies to fund their hiring more private security. Call it a jobs program, and it becomes a win-win solution. But don't do mandatory minimums for shoplifting. It is morally wrong, potentially ruining the lives of many young citizens of Aurora. You're smart, you're dedicated, you can come up with something better.
Sir, your 3 minutes are up. Jamie Jackson.
Mayor, I would like to directly address
Well, I tell you,
that. Do I have to wait till everybody speaks?
Yes,
or?
let's
Okay.
do that, yeah. And we'll have a brief presentation by staff, can cover some of those points too.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Jamie Jackson, Criminal Justice Chair of the Aurora NAACP, and I would like for you to consider the cost of reducing the threshold for these mandatory minimum sentences. You all have been called to serve the citizens of Aurora, and that means that we need to be able to provide resources to them so that they can thrive. And in doing so, I think you should be focusing more on preventative efforts to give people the resources that they need to be productive citizens instead of being fiscally irresponsible by reducing the minimum thresholds for shoplifting and for retail theft, and also the dine and dash. We all know that incarceration is very costly. I think the per diem every day is probably $155 per individual per day. And if we're reducing the threshold from $300 to $100, the city is going to be paying money to incarcerate people, which doesn't make common sense, nor does it make economic sense. And we also know that our city, our systems, our criminal justice systems in Aurora are already overwhelmed. APD is short-staffed. The detention center staff, they have a lot of vacancies. I've heard that the second floor of the detention center is not even in operation. And so instead of looking at being more punitive, which research shows does not work, it is ineffective in preventing crime, reducing crime, and making the community safer, we need to look at putting money towards prevention and not spending more money. And as Council Member Hancock said, we need to be good stewards of our resources. And if you reduce these mandatory minimum thresholds, you will not be good stewards of our resources, because we're going to be paying way more money to incarcerate our citizens who need crucial resources in order to be productive citizens of this community. These crimes that they're committing are socioeconomic crimes, and that means that they need help, they need resources. If they're going and stealing food, if they're stealing diapers, that means that they need those resources. So I know you all are very smart and intelligent people, and I'm sure that you can find a way to provide the necessary help that these people need instead of burdening our taxpayers by these increased incarceration costs.
That was the last individual.
Mayor.
A brief presentation by staff.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm sorry, Councilwoman Drinsky.
Thank you. The first gentleman that spoke, he brought up a really good point about juveniles, and I think the verbiage he used is we don't want our juveniles, to just automatically have a black mark on their record. Pete, can you please address that specifically regarding juveniles in this resolution?
Yes, ma'am. Mayor, council.
Your presentation.
Yes, sir. Pete Schulte, Public Safety Client Manager for the City Attorney's Office. So what this resolution does, and I'll get Councilmember Drinsky, I'll get to those questions as we do this. So what this does is it reduces the threshold, as some of the speakers have talked about, for those offenses involving retail theft that was $300 and over, reduces that down to $100 and over. Talking with some of our police officers and our police chiefs, they had stated that they are seeing a lot of cases where people are going into stores and shoplifting right up to like $293, $297. So somehow the idea was getting out there that if you went above that $300, you were risking jail time. So that's the first thing that this ordinance does that is being brought by Councilmember Drinsky, reduces it from $300 to $100. The second thing that it does is it does add provisions for repeat offenders. And the way that is defined as is that for those, if evidence is presented at sentencing that somebody has been previously once convicted of retail theft, as it's defined, then the minimum mandatory jail sentence would be 90 days, okay? And it orders just like the motor vehicle theft mandatory minimums and the original retail theft mandatory minimums. It says the court shall not set aside or suspend this minimum sentence. In other words, if they're sentenced to that particular 90 days in jail, they will serve 90 days in jail. The judge couldn't put them on probation in lieu of the jail sentence. The second thing that it does is if evidence is presented that the defendant has twice been previously convicted of retail theft or a similar offense, it increases the minimum jail sentence of 180 days. And again, the court could not set aside or suspend the minimum sentence. Our municipal court does not handle juvenile offenses. So those crimes that are committed by juveniles who are just 17 years old and younger, our court cannot handle them. We do not have a juvenile justice process in the municipal court. Those cases would be filed with the county court under state law. County court cannot enforce city ordinances. So any criminal history or so forth that would be on a juvenile would not be public record. It would not impact a juvenile as long as they are not tried as an adult, right? If they are tried as an adult, and that's for heavier offenses than property offenses, it will not show up on their public criminal history. So it should not be affecting them in jobs, colleges, and so forth. It's when they hit 18. When they hit 18 and they start committing offenses, it doesn't matter if you're in the municipal court or you're in the state system, those items become on your record if you're convicted. So that is what this particular ordinance, and the only change that came from public safety was there was some discussion about where the defendants would actually serve their jail time. We had written these originally that the first 3 days would be served in the Aurora Municipal Center, just because we have a municipal center, but that is by law because we don't have all of the other amenities that a county jail has. We can't hold individuals longer than 72 hours. So after the 72 hours, it would have to be transferred over to the county jail, which is most likely Arapahoe County. And so in this particular case, we struck those, so it's really up to the detention center, the individuals that are taking custody of those individuals, where they actually serve their jail sentence. So that was the other change from public safety till today.
Any questions of staff?
Mayor?
Councilmember Bergen.
Yeah, I have a question because it was brought up about punitive measures. Do punitive measures work for the low-level offenses?
So this has come up before, and there has been some Department of Justice studies done that on felony offenses, murder, serious offenses, mandatory minimums don't work, right? Because usually if somebody's wired to do those type of crimes, they're going to do it anyway regardless of the punishment, right? If somebody's facing life in prison without parole, that's not deterring some people from committing murder. There is evidence to suggest that on low-level property crimes, a mandatory minimum sentence of jail time can deter some criminal activity. And I think we saw a little bit of that, Councilmember Bergen, when people are actually committing the crime of getting just under the $300 threshold to actually to not do the 3 days in jail if they were convicted. So I think it sends a message.
Further questions of
Mayor.
staff?
Mayor.
Councilmember Murillo.
Just a clarification, is there any data that refutes the point that you made just now, that there's evidence that supports that mandatory minimums work in this case? Is there evidence that is contrary to that position as well?
So the only evidence that I have is when Councilmember Marcano was on council, and we had this discussion last year, or actually almost 2 years ago, talking about motor vehicle theft. I don't have the study in front of me, but it was from the Department of Justice, where they did the study between major felony offenses and then the lower level misdemeanor type property crimes. So I can get that to you.
So you're just speaking about a conversation you had in the past with a past council member, and you're referring to that study? Is that?
No, that was in council. So that was a
Right,
question that we had in a council, yes ma'am, in a council meeting where I actually listed out the study. I just don't have that in front of me from 2 years ago.
But to be clear, when you say there's evidence and data that supports that mandatory minimums work, what data, is that the data you're referring to? Is that the data you're referring to? Let's start there.
The data that I'm referring to, Councilmember Murillo, is the report from the Department of Justice that did the study on those that jail sentences for property crimes.
And you're not aware of any other body of data that suggests that mandatory minimums don't work?
Not that I'm aware of today, but if you'd like me to, I can do more research on that.
I guess I would have assumed that there was that as part of the preparation for this conversation. But yes, I would like to work with you on that.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, further discussion. Further questions of staff, I'm sorry.
Mayor?
Further questions of staff. Councilmember Coombs.
So there has been quite a bit of conversation about the impact on our jail costs. And the information that we've received in general is that we're not providing any money for the 10 beds per night that we currently have held open in Arapahoe County Jail. No data, I think, from Adams at this point, that we currently pay nothing, as long as it's only 10 beds a night that we're utilizing. What is the cost per bed for the Arapahoe County Jail if we were to exceed that 10 beds, or if they were, for some reason, to change the arrangement that we currently have with them?
So good question, Councilmember Coombs. So back in, I think it was around 2014, the jails were having a discussion about how much the cities would contribute to the county jails if they were actually sentencing individuals from the municipal court into the county jails to serve their sentence. The argument back then was that since all of our citizens in Aurora are paying taxes, that they already were paying for a certain amount of beds in the county jail. I think it's something like 14. So if we, and again, I've talked to the Sheriff Tyler Brown a lot about this a lot. The last conversation that I did have with him, he did state that depending on how many individuals that this ordinance produces that get sentenced to jail, that end up serving a jail sentence at the Arapahoe County Jail, he may have to revisit that because of he's dealing with some of his county commissioners. And right now, his estimation for anybody, it doesn't matter if it's a Aurora Municipal Court defendants or anything, it's about $135 a day is what he told me to house anybody in the jail for 1 day. So, you know, with more discussion, we start sentencing a lot of individuals to jail, the municipal court does, and Sheriff Brown finds that there's a lot of individuals in the jail. He may be coming back to us and stating, hey, we need some contribution because this is what it's costing the county for these jail sentences.
And we haven't heard anything from Adams yet at this point on their costs?
So I think the way, and I don't want to speak for detention, but I think the way the jail is handling it, because the municipal court sits in Arapahoe County, they're only sending individuals to Arapahoe County. I know the legislation states that in a perfect system, they should go to the jail where the offense was committed, but because of the hybrid that we have where they start off at the detention facility, if they're in the detention facility, most of the time they're going to the Arapahoe County Jail. I actually haven't seen any cases where they're going to Adams County or Douglas County.
Mayor, just
Please
quick
proceed.
clarification. I have seen a jail minimus for Adams County for shoplifting from Aurora. So
Okay.
I will, I've had some conversations with Adams County commissioners at this point, but I have seen that. So there is at least some cases of folks going to Adams. And I will say that so far what I've heard from Adams County commissioners and Arapahoe County commissioners is that both of their jails are in bad condition, overcrowded, and cannot afford to be taking in Aurora cases. And on the 90 and 120-day sentences, there is no choice except for to send them there. So I do think we're going to have to hear from them by the second reading, since we don't have direct information from them at this point.
Mayor, may I quickly respond?
Please.
So, again, I've asked Sheriff Brown to bring that information, but at this point, they have not provided, at least our office, any information that they're going to start charging. Not saying that there isn't going to be that fiscal note at some point. And I know what the case you're talking about at Adams County, before the current mandatory minimum for shoplifting is 3 days. I know that if they have other charges, and I know this happened in a couple cases in Adams County, that they were transferred to the Adams County Jail because they had other Adams County cases that were pending. They just sent them along their way to serve the 3 days as well, because if they don't have any other charges, they shouldn't be sending them under the current ordinance the way it reads, that they should be doing their 72 hours in the Aurora detention facility as the ordinance is currently written.
Further questions of staff?
Oh, not a question.
Further questions of staff? Seeing none, thank you, Pete. A motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Drewski.
motion to approve item 13A.
It's been moved by Councilmember Drewski, seconded by?
Savonic.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Zavonic to approve item number 13A. I'm sorry, 13A. Discussion.
Mayor?
Councilmember Bergen.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of this, as was in the $300 threshold, is to deter people from stealing from our businesses. And I think it's a good thing. We don't want people stealing in the city of Aurora. So, I'm glad you clarified those that are under 18. That made, that's good information to have. But bottom line, don't steal, and you won't go to jail.
Further discussion.
Mayor.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, we've heard a lot about the potential cost of this ordinance, but I think what we're forgetting again is the cost to the businesses. And, Councilmember Drinsky and I had the opportunity to speak at a third grade class last week, and we talked about all the interesting things that local government does, just to clarify the difference between the federal government and local governments, parks, recs, library, roads. And we said, how does the city pay for this? Taxes, right? We taught them taxes. This is how you pay for it. And in the city, it's primarily what type of sales tax, or what type of tax? Sales tax. There are a number of businesses that are retail businesses all across our city that we've heard from a number of times that talk about the fact that they are considering leaving our city because of the high rate of retail theft. And so this is our opportunity to crack down on, to make sure that one, we don't lose businesses, and that we don't lose businesses from potentially coming here. That's the cost that we can't measure, but that we know exists because we hear from people on the front lines all the time. And so that too easily gets overlooked. The same thing happened when we talked about creating minimum mandatories for motor vehicle theft. So I think this is a very smart move for us to do, and frankly, the cost is well worth it if we can keep these businesses in Aurora.
Further discussion.
Mayor.
Councilmember Coombs.
So I think the part of the conversation that's also not being had right now is the fact that you have to catch people before you can sentence them. And I received a call on Friday from a constituent with her neighbor who had witnessed a person come up, pull up to their home, saw the vehicle, had video of the vehicle, had a description of the vehicle, knew where the vehicle was going, that dropped off an individual that stole her car out of her garage. She had all of that information. She called the police within minutes, and they said, if you don't know who it is that was in that vehicle that drove off with your car, then there's nothing we can do for you. We can't investigate that motor vehicle theft that you just described in detail and have video of, and may even have a license plate for. So if our officers don't have the resources, if they don't have the capacity, when our residents call them to address the crimes that are being committed, to solve the crimes, to catch the folks, then it doesn't matter how many mandatory minimums we put on the record. People are going to keep committing those crimes. We have to actually catch people, and we have not focused what we need to focus on actually catching people before then backing up with these mandatory minimums that are definitely going to be ineffective in that type of an environment where folks know that they're definitely not going to be caught. I think the other issue that is certainly the elephant in the room, or the group of persistent people who really wanted to say something, but their First Amendment rights were shut down in the room, is that we have an RFP out to outsource our public defender's office to what will either be a low bid flat fee contract or will require that we end up having change orders to increase the cost of that contract above whatever number we get on that bid when the cases are inevitably more than what we told them they were going to be. And the reason that's the elephant in the room is because when you say more people can go to jail for crimes, you are automatically entitling those people, if they are caught to begin with, to a public defender. So the caseload number that we have put out in this RFP is once again going to be inaccurate. So we're going to say, oh yeah, sure, you can go ahead and pay us only we're going to only pay you $1.5 million for this public defender contract. Those folks are going to come back to us and be like, whoa, this is way more cases than you said it was going to be. So we want a change order, and it's going to cost another $1 million to cover all those cases. So I just want to make sure that we tie together the different issues that we're addressing or refusing to address tonight.
Mayor?
213A. Further discussion to 13A.
Mayor, I just,
Councilmember
if I could just respond to that, the example you gave, Councilmember Coombs, of a vehicle being stolen from a garage, you sound like you just want to give up. You know, let's just give up. Doesn't matter. But let's augment our police force. We're down about 100 officers. You know, I came on council after a previous council had demonized our police force, and I'm trying to change that. You look at San Francisco, look at California, look at Oakland. You want to see the pendulum shift so far out? You can steal $900 there, about approximately, get away with it. And the cost to society of Walgreens pulling out, right, of Whole Foods pulling out of there. And who does that affect? You know, typically those who are in need. The gentleman, I don't know if the gentleman is still here, who's the teacher at Central. God bless him. He's doing the Lord's work. He reminded me when I was in 8th grade, I got arrested for stealing cassette tapes from a store in Denver. And to go to jail, I went to the jail, the police department, and to have my dad pick me up. He's only been mad at me 5 times in my life, and that was one of them, and that was scary as hell, right? So enforcing the law is a deterrent. You look at Oakland. Oakland is becoming an urban hellscape. It motivates me to do the work that I do. And you laugh at that. You laugh at it. You're smirking, okay? So you have flash mobs of teens attacking stores. We're going to be shopping online pretty soon. But I pledge to our citizens that a number of us want to keep this fight alive. And it's about what are we permissive of? Are we going to be permissive to steal $900? Because the citizens are figuring out in Oakland and San Francisco, that's not working. They want the opposite. So this is about what is advertised as being permissive and allowed, and we have the opportunity to go another route in Aurora, Colorado.
Further discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Drewens.
I just want to address one thing that was said. Councilmember Coombs, you said that the police said that they couldn't do anything when someone showed up to someone's home and stole their vehicle. And I do believe in that instance they have to be caught in the act or however that works. But this is addressing retail theft, and a lot of retailers. I had a meeting. They flew in some of their top people from TJ Maxx and Sierra. And what they're doing actually for retail theft is retailers are starting to put trackers in some of their items, and they actually are being caught. The police are finding these people. They're finding all the merchandise. So retailers themselves are putting together retail theft task forces to try and combat this. And so when addressing retail theft versus auto theft, I do think that we stand a chance on combating this. And you yourself said you know somebody who's even served one of the 3-day terms in Adams County. So people are being caught. Motor vehicle theft might be a little tougher, for sure, but this is retail theft.
Pete, if I could refer a question to you, and that is, if I understand our crime stats, everything's trending down with the exception of retail theft.
That's correct. We had a large spike in increase of retail theft while everything else went down.
Oh, okay. Further comments? Mayor. Discussion. Councilmember Hand.
Mayor, so what's the principle here? You shouldn't steal, right? When I was 5, I stole. My mom, after she gave me a sound butt whooping, I had to collect pop bottles to pay for that theft. Okay? Theft is theft. Whether you're 5, 15, 35, 45, you know you shouldn't steal. If you steal, there is a consequence. And when people throw off consequences, when they throw off restraint, then we have anarchy. So what we've been asked to do as council members, and one of the things that I've heard every day as I was walking and knocking on doors from people, they're tired of seeing theft. I was in King Soopers, a guy just picked up stuff, walked right out the door. Now, it didn't look like he had diapers, and it didn't look like he had food. He had merchandise. So we have got to say there are penalties and there are consequences to your actions. And as long as people feel like they can do things with impunity, then we're going to have chaos on our hands. And we've got to get our hands around this. You might not like it, but here's the thing. We've got to teach people that as citizens of this community, as good citizens, we need to practice self-restraint. We know that stealing is wrong. Do the right thing. And if you don't, there's a consequence. And maybe that may be the thing that will keep you from going the other route, as you had mentioned, Mr. Schulte, that, okay, if 3 days in jail will scare the crap out of me, I won't do anything else. You know, so it is what it is. This whole conversation is just like mind-boggling to me. The fact that we don't want to punish people for the bad things that they do, I'm having trouble with that. As an inner city youth growing up with a single parent in subsidized housing, there are plenty of opportunities to do that. And the victims of these crimes most likely are other people who can ill afford to be robbed. So let's think about that.
Further discussion
Mayor.
on 13A. Councilmember Lawson.
So here's the deal. We, in Aurora, you know, our businesses are what provides the revenue for our city. It's buying something. So, for example, I'm in Ward 5, so I went out and talked to Arapahoe Crossing. Do you know why Kohl's has one entry and one entry out? And why it looks like it was closed, but you can only come in through the Sephora side? Because they were stealing. Do you know why at Ulta, at Corner Star, multiple thefts over at that area? The mayor and I went a couple weeks ago on Olive Place, Mayor, and we talked about 5 or 6 businesses. And one of the main reasons, the issues that they're having is theft. in that area, and it's bad. And a lot of the businesses are leaving. In fact, I heard that the one gentleman that came here with the car wash, he's actually leaving. He's actually taking his business out of it because they stole from the car wash so much. So it's not only punishing people for what they're doing, but it's causing things to go up more because of the theft. It may cause businesses to go out of Aurora, which we need to have businesses because that's what we use. We use tax for that. So I support this. I think, when we're looking at ultimately the ultimate goal of what Councilmember Durinsky is trying to do, it is really for deterrence. We have a couple choices here. Are we going to have businesses? I mean, stealing from somebody, whether it's a business, small businesses, they're suffering too, and they have to pay for things, and that puts it on the consumer as well. So I think we have to look at it from that standpoint as well. And that's what the mayor, you saw what we saw in that business district, and that's why a lot of those businesses in that I Live Place are leaving because of theft.
Further discussion? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of 13A. Call for the question.
Councilmember Hancock?
I vote yes, my computer dropped in, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. The motion passes with 7 yes votes, 3 no votes from Councilmember Coombs, Murillo, and Medina.
Clerk, now please read the title to item number 13B.
Item 13B is introduction of ordinance 2024-05, amending sections of the city code pertaining to mandatory minimum sentences for theft of services in the Aurora Municipal Code to combat the increase in dine and dash thefts in the city. And Mayor, we do have people signed up to speak.
Okay, proceed with the speakers.
Okay. Elizabeth Cadiz.
Good evening, Elizabeth Cadiz, also known as the elephant in the room, the Chief Public Defender for the City of Aurora. And this evening couldn't be any more ironic, particularly since it was the opposition by the previous chief, Doug Wilson, vehemently opposing the previous mandatory minimum sentencing that most believe got us in this mess. It's not fiscally responsible when you are clearly trying to outsource right now a public defender's office to combat the increase in costs associated with your previous mandatory minimum sentencing. You said that, Councilmember Zvonek. You said it. You said, if there's going to be more jury trials in your municipal court, that is going to raise costs. And then you said that your solution to the increased costs based on the crime crackdown was to outsource the public defender. So it continues to be fiscally irresponsible for you to add more offenses that will have mandatory minimums. Now, I can't talk about why that reasoning is otherwise flawed and clearly indicates a disregard for the constitutional rights of individuals who do have a presumption of innocence, or how it encourages this idea that perhaps we could save money if more people take pleas. There's tons of research, Councilmember Murillo. I found 3 articles just in sitting where I was, and there is no data at all to rely on. What we just heard is that the only rate of crime that's gone up was retail theft. Guess what that tells us? The previous mandatory minimum sentencing, not a deterrent. Doesn't work. You're going to pay to put people in the county jail, transport them to the county jail for 3 days for $15 or more on a dine and dash, which nobody has any statistics to establish even happens frequently at all in the city. You're gonna pass a mandatory minimum sentence on an offense that you have no data for, to suggest that it is a reoccurring issue so that you will accrue the data.
Hunter Parnell.
As I did last time, I'm Hunter Parnell, and I come once again as an extremely concerned and frankly offended disabled veteran at the behavior of some of y'all, the way you carry on. It's not necessarily the policy, it's the hypocrisy. It's the lies, it's the bullshit that come out of your mouth in this regard. You have said you're concerned about deterring people. The Aurora City Police are under a consent decree for consistently violating the civil liberties and rights that I signed up to die for, that you signed up to die for, that you signed up to die for. If you'd like to look up for me, thank you. And there's no deterrence for them. Are there mandatory punishments that you guys are implementing to take care of that problem? The city attorneys in this city, hundreds of documented discovery violations, hundreds. Hundreds. That's a constitutional violation, a right to fair trial that my friends died for. Have you offered to even admonish the city attorney for this publicly? No, no. But you're concerned about deterrence. You're concerned about deterring about law breaking in this city. But when the people that work for you, that you like, break the law, violate people's constitutional rights, you want to get rid of the office that is holding them accountable. Do not talk to me about your care for accountability and deterrence. You don't care. Talk about fiscal conservatism. How much is this going to cost the city attorney's office for the more trials? How much? How much? Do we know? Do we have an answer? Because last year when y'all did mandatory minimums, you specifically said we shouldn't do a fiscal note. We should just skip it. Who cares about fiscal conservatism when we're doing the good thing, right? Can't do that. I know you're going to talk later, so I can't wait to hear it. But here is the problem. If you want to have a principle, I agree with you, Councilmember Hancock. I do. I believe in having a principled approach. If you want to be principled in deterrence, then do it. Do it to the people in this city who have a documented history of violating constitutional rights. But if you don't want to, if you don't care about deterrence, then don't say it. Say what you believe. I think people should go to jail. Hey, City Council, question. If you are charged with the crime, municipal ordinance violation, what is the presumptive punishment you can face? For all of them. It's 364 days in jail. What are you talking about? That you can't go to jail for theft. That's already on the table. That exists here. This is the most punitive municipality in the state. And it's not close. And that's okay. You guys have won elections. People have entrusted you. They've given you their support. And I think that means something. And I think it's disgraceful that leaders would do things and be so hypocritical, would just not be true to any principle. To the deterrence point, sir, it took me 5 minutes, and I will gladly share it with you, because I want this to be driven by data. There is a study that I found, University of Chicago, 116 studies, meta-analysis, that found that what you're talking about, the incarceration, does not do what you're saying it does. We can talk about anecdotes, and I heard this and I heard that, but maybe you guys disagree with me. We should be doing data-driven approaches. I want this city to be vibrant. I want it to be healthy. I want constitutional protections to matter. And what you are doing is saying, for deterrence for some, fiscal conservative sometimes, but, whatever. Do we really have to do it all the time? It's disgusting.
Adam Lior, call.
I came here today to talk about the Sixth Amendment, but looks like I'm going to have to talk to y'all a little bit about the First Amendment as well. My name's Adam Lior Call. I'm a law student at the University of Colorado. And let's actually talk a little bit about what y'all said earlier. With liberty and justice for all. We all took the Pledge of Allegiance And honestly, I am surprised that y'all could do it with a straight face. How you can get up here in front of your constituents and lie to the world is wild to me. So you claim we're talking about taxpayer money, we're talking about, saving some dollars here or there. Anyone can plainly see that you are unhappy with what is happening in the courtrooms, and you are retaliating by selling Coloradans' Sixth Amendment rights to the lowest bidder. Instead of celebrating the fact that Aurora hosts such an incredible team dedicated to making sure that justice is administered fairly, you've chosen to sell your constituents' futures, leaving them to just hope for the best. Aurora could be a model for indigent defense, but you're throwing that out the window for, tough on crime, mandatory minimums. I am talking about what's on the table. So let's talk for a second about the kind of legal institutions that Aurora is famous for. I was here a few years ago, protesting the death of Elijah McClain, his murder by the Aurora police. I was here when Aurora's finest charged at us, a crowd of unarmed protesters beating nightsticks on their shields. I was here as they got closer and closer, and the banging got louder and louder. And I was here with thousands of my fellow Coloradans when we didn't flinch, and the cops pulled up short. This is just like that.
Excuse me, are you speaking to 13B? I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm speaking to 13B, the increase in mandatory minimums and how that will impact the access to public defense. Under the First Amendment, I believe we all have the right to talk about what y'all are voting on today, what y'all do in this city. We've not had the opportunity to speak to the privatization of the Public Defense Office, so I'm speaking about both. Thank you. A bunch of fascists making a lot of noise and being real mad, using their authority to look scary when somebody stands up for the little guy. But just like then, you will come up short because Coloradans see through you. You are small, sad people for whom the Pledge of Allegiance is just a patriotic prop. How you can claim allegiance to liberty and justice for all when you are happy to put your constituents' liberty up for sale is insane. What twisted idea of justice do you have where you try to defund a department that is providing 75% of the cases brought against your constituents?
Your time is up.
Bullshit.
Travis Weiner.
My name is Travis. I want to commend some of the speakers who preceded me on the issue. They were far more eloquent than I suspect I'll be. You would do well to listen to them. I saw some of you not paying attention when they were speaking, and you do so at your own peril. I served my country as a deputy state Colorado public defender for over 5 years. In addition to that, before that, and I wasn't going to mention this, but a lot of other speakers mentioned it, some of you on the council mentioned it, I served my country as a U.S. Army combat veteran, served 2 tours in Iraq where I was combat wounded. I am incredibly troubled, as some of my friends and colleagues are as a veteran who supposedly shed blood for this country, to watch what appears to me to be an unabashed, unashamed, completely undemocratic process. Some of you are proud, almost like you're proud of how undemocratic you're making this. You enjoy it. Especially ending debate on matters that cut to the heart of constitutional freedoms, again, to quote some of my eloquent friends, that you all swore an oath to. Oaths don't mean much, apparently to some of you. Mayor Kaufman, I met with your staff when you were representative a few times, advocating for you to support legislation that was trying to repatriate deported military veterans who would be U.S. citizens but for errors in the broken U.S. immigration system, a system which the vast majority of you appear to be wholly and proudly ignorant of in terms of how it works. You declined to support that legislation. That's why I campaigned for Representative Crow, defeated you to become a U.S. representative. Representative Crow, of course, is a combat veteran. Nothing I did in the Army had the slightest connection to protecting the freedoms of people in this country. To claim otherwise is ignorance. But mandatory minimums, that's what this is about. Let's talk about what the U.S. Department of Justice's National Institute of Justice says about deterrence. And I hope you listen and find that slightly more persuasive than the staff testimony who couldn't cite any data. It's clear to me is how deeply, I want you to really pay attention to this. What's clear to me is how deeply and passionately so many of you feel about deterrence, right? It worked for me, right? I was deterred. I get it. That is a human inclination. But you have to make a conscious choice, which I see so many of you making, and it's such a dereliction of your duty. I mean, words don't describe it. To say, I feel it, so I don't care what the data says. I don't care. Over what you've heard it before, Department of Justice, certainty being caught, far more powerful deterrent than the amount of punishment, and sending an individual to jail or prison isn't an effective way to deter crime, full stop. That's what's called a meta-study. Some of you should look that up once we're done. The bottom line is facts, empiricism, evidence, peer-reviewed studies, things that maybe once upon a time governmental bodies such as yourself sworn, even pretended to base policy on. Research shows they don't work. Why? Wait for it. Most obvious point. The average person arrested for a crime, in fact, almost everybody arrested for a crime, has no idea what the sentencing range is. Ipso facto, it doesn't deter. Lastly, they don't make an individualized determination. Might be part of the reason why the state of Colorado years ago ended mandatory minimums for virtually every misdemeanor. Offenses, right, which arguably carry more egregious conduct. And finally, if you're not convinced by any of that, some of you make your hay being fiscal conservatives. It's been talked about. So.
Alexandra Jackson. Okay. Hashim Coates.
My name is Hashim Coates, Aurora resident, candidate for Arapahoe County Commissioner. I'm here to talk about this whole thing of mandatory punishment and changing things for, which is nothing more than refeeding the pipeline to prison. You've heard that the data is not out there to support the claims. What this does is it shows your lack of empathy and compassion for kids. I agree that accountability should be the word of the day. I get it. But if we understand that the human brain is not formed until it's 26 years old, what are you doing? How are we pushing this on people who are 18? Do we really feel that they have the full mental faculties to live life without any type of blemishes? But yet this goes upon their record, mandatory sentencing, mandatory minimums, and what? They can afford to take this time off of work to continue to be productive members to society? The logic is flawed. Others have pointed that out. As I sit here and I stand here and I talk, I'm like, this is almost an exercise in futility. The evil was hardened before your asses were planted in their seats tonight. The cowardice has grown and flourished before you all planted yourselves in the seat tonight. Many of you will cry that I'm not racist because I get my hair cut at a black barbershop. I'm not racist because I impregnate people who aren't white. I'm not racist because I'm black. Well, I want you to know that when you engineer the train of white supremacy, you are racist. If you do not possess the bandwidth, the capacity to understand the harms of your actions, then this is not the job for you. Utilize the funding that the city gives you for future development training. Learn. Prove that you can. Let your level of empathy match your level of evil. I still have a little bit of hope in you. I have a high average of being right, but I have a funny feeling that you all are going to mess with my average. Additionally, whether you're punishing someone for bad behavior And you're ignoring the fact that if this is being done by addicts, right? If what they stole wasn't diapers or whatever, if what they stole was supporting an addiction, why not treat the issue instead of just treating the symptom? Are we too short-sighted to do such a thing, even when people tell you over and over that you're going about this the wrong way? You want forgiveness for being a racist and doing the things that you did, mocking cultures that were not yours? Practice that to others.
That was the last individual.
Brief presentation by staff.
Councilmember Durinsky, did you want to start off, or do you want me to go ahead and present?
You can go ahead.
Thank you, Councilmember Durinsky. Mayor, members of council. This is adding a mandatory sentence for an offense involving defrauding a public establishment, which is already in our city code. And what it does is it adds a provision, what we call dine and dash. So somebody who walks away from $15 or more.
What is that?
$15 or more, then the mandatory minimum jail sentence of 3 days shall be imposed in addition to any other sentence imposed by the court. The change from, again, just like the retail theft ordinance from Public Safety Committee a couple weeks ago, was to remove where the jail sentence should be served. Just a couple quick updates as I was sitting here receiving texts from my colleagues. We do prosecute juveniles in the municipal court. However, jail sentences and those other types of punishments aren't available to juveniles. Again, their records are not public. If we wanted to send somebody to the youth commission, those cases would have to be filed with the county court because, again, we don't have the ability to hold any juveniles here in the city where actually no municipal court does. I do like the quick Google searches that people did on mandatory minimums. There was a lot of stuff out there. Everybody knows you can get on Google and find exactly what you're looking for to support your position. There's a lot of data, as Councilmember Rio did bring up. There's a lot of data. I just brought up the article that I had brought up before. It's from the National Institute of Justice talking about mandatory sentencing, and it's the things that we've been talking about. It says, at least in the short term, mandatory sentencing does deter crime. But there are other issues. Even Public Defender Cadiz brought that up, that it could delay sentencing. It could increase the wait in time for cases to get to court because plea bargains aren't accepted as often. So these are the same things that we brought up a couple years ago when we did motor vehicle theft. Those things still exist. So again, I don't want to be clear from my office as the city attorney's office from testifying here today in front of you all, we're saying is that harsh mandatory penalties don't work. Okay, but there is data from the Department of Justice that says mandatory minimums on lower level offenses that don't put somebody in jail for 10 years for stealing less than $100, those don't work. But some of these do work, but it does have other costs, as Councilmember Coombs and Councilmember Murillo have brought up. So that's what this bill does. It does say if it's $15 or more on the dine and dash that it would be a 3-day minimum sentence. Most likely would be served at the detention facility here in Aurora unless there's other offenses that are holding them in other county courts. One of the other things that talking with Police Chief Morris that we've been seeing is a lot of restaurants, just like we were having with retail theft, a lot of restaurants don't even bother calling the police when they have somebody who commits a dine and dash. We want to encourage those reporting so we can track those offenses, so we know that where they're occurring and where PD, if they have the resources, they can put those those officers there to try to deter some of that crime from being visible. You know, the old saying is true, if police officers are visible, if somebody's a police officer sitting in a parking lot across from a restaurant, most people probably won't decide to dine and dash. So Chief Morris did testify at Public Safety. She did state that hopefully if this ordinance passes that the businesses in Aurora would feel more inclined that we are trying to take this seriously, that they would report all these instances of the crime because it is making their businesses lose money.
Thank you. Questions of staff? Seeing none, motion is in order.
Mayor,
Councilmember Durinsky.
motion to approve item 13B.
Moved by Councilmember Durinsky, seconded by?
Hancock.
Seconded by Councilmember Hancock to approve item number 13B. Discussion?
Mayor.
Councilmember Durinsky.
Yeah, I just want to thank the business owners that did weigh in on this. Several of us on council attended many crime roundtable events that the Havana Bid had hosted. And the Havana Bid stretches a long way through Aurora. And those businesses were tired, they were fed up, the retailers, the restaurant owners. So that's where this was kind of born from, was those retail roundups, or crime roundups, I'm sorry. So I just want to let those business owners know that we hear you, and we're not just going to sit on our hands. So that's where this is born from, and I appreciate the work that the Havana Bid does in Aurora.
Further discussion? Seeing none, question before us is the adoption of item number 13B. Call for the question.
Councilmember Hancock.
You're still dead, yes.
Okay. Councilmember Sundberg. Oh, thank you. The motion passes with 7 yes votes, 3 no votes from Councilmember Coombs, Murillo, and Medina.
Reports, Mayor has no report. Councilmember Coombs.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So I did attend as the alternate to Dr. Cog this last week. We had a lively discussion on the lobbying priorities for Dr. Cog, in which I voted in alignment with the FSIR positions on the bills being taken up. Also voted on appointments for the Front Range Passenger Rail Board. And one issue that came up in that conversation is that actually not enough representatives are trying to be on that board from the South and East Metro. So there was an ask that folks in Aurora, Arapahoe County, and other municipalities that fall within the area of Front Range Passenger Rail that are in the South and East Metro keep an eye out for those openings that will be coming up over the next couple of years for that board. We also approved the Dr. Cog Priority Climate Action Plan, which will be sent to the EPA, and appointed board members for the executive committee and some of the other subcommittees for Dr. Cog. I had a meeting with Senator Hickenlooper and a number of nonprofits and community volunteers about the migrant crisis, and also met with the Northwest Aurora Migrant Response Network. An incredible amount is being done by nonprofits to get people housed and make sure they're moving through the immigration system so that folks can begin working and contributing economically to the community. But they are also working with the federal government to try to get relevant legislation as well as potential funding that could support localities to address this crisis. And then I also finally attended several meetings about housing legislation and affordability measures that are moving through the state legislature. Some, but not all of them, relating to land use, which I know has been a lively conversation among our council as well. And finally, of course, have also been fielding a lot of questions from our community about where our city council stands on the variety of contentious issues that have come before us this evening. These are issues that our community does care about and does want to mobilize on, and I believe that we should listen to them, we should connect with them, and we should engage with them on those issues, whether or not we think that it's our personal job.
Councilmember Gardner.
Thank you, Mayor. Just would like to announce the appointment of Twa Gwynn to the Business Advisory Board.
Councilmember Jurenski.
Thank you. I just want to put the reminder out there that we are having an at-large town hall on April 18th at the Southeast Rec Center, and May 18th is our WaterWise event coming up. There will be a variety of vendors there, landscaping vendors, sprinkler system installation vendors, all types of vendors. It is a WaterWise event, so all about water conservation, and there will be some great opportunities for the people of Aurora to save some money on their water bill and have some equipment installed.
Mayor Pro Tem Zvonek.
No report.
Councilmember Murillo.
Thanks, Mayor. As always, I'll have my town hall on the fourth Thursday of the month, and it'll be at 6 p.m. And the location's not popping up. I believe it'll be at the MLK Library. Thank you.
Councilmember Sundberg.
Thank you, sir. Enjoyed the Colorado Springs Rescue Mission visit. Learned a lot. What an incredible organization that is, helping so many folks down there. Enjoyed speaking with a social studies class at Rangeview High School. I believe my colleague here, Stephanie Hancock, did the same thing. What an incredible group of bright young people that they were. And along the lines of conservation water efforts that Councilmember Jurinski brought up, you know, our water department and our PROS department, Parks, Recreation, Open Space, through 2023 to 2025 will convert about 100 acres of ornamental grass to native grass, saving a number of things such as lawn mowing and water.
Great. Councilmember Medina.
No report.
Councilmember Hancock.
Thank you, Mayor. I had the opportunity to visit the Excel School that will be opening up. The Goodwill is sponsoring this school. It is the opportunity for adults to earn a high school diploma. It's one of 11 programs across the country, and if you're over the age of 18 and you didn't get your high school diploma, this is an opportunity to do that. It's located in my ward on Iliff near Chambers, right in that Goodwill Center, and I took a hard hat tour, and I'm very excited about what they're doing and how it's moving along, and I'm really excited about that set when they've made some missteps. Also at Rangeview High School, which is one of my Ward 4 schools, these young people are engaged in governance. They want to know more about the political system and how they can be active participants in it. So it was a really good opportunity to participate in that as well. My next town hall will be on April 11th. So mark your calendars. It will be at the Colorado Early Campus on Abilene Street. So we're going to talk about the budget and safety and all those other great things. So, and along with me will be Councilmember Jurinski. So it'll be another joint meeting, and we look forward to seeing you there.
Councilmember Lawson.
Thank you. Councilmember Hancock, I'm so glad that that school is opening. I testified on that bill last year for that school, so it's really good that that's opening. For the Pfizer Committee, the legislative update, in Congress, lawmakers are working to avoid a partial government shutdown by Friday's funding deadline, the fourth time in 6 months. The city will begin the process of seeking congressionally project spending for FY 2025 on several projects related to safety and infrastructure. At the state level, the city will testify next week on legislation related to the possession of weapons by previous offenders, Senate Bill 24-107, and legislation that addresses construction defects, Senate Bill 24-106. The city's next Pfizer meeting will be this Friday, March 1st at 1 p.m. and will be virtual. I want to thank everyone that attended my town hall at Saturday at Heather Gartens, and Cindy Collop did a very good job. Everything was talking about traffic. I will be tomorrow at my town hall at Central Rec Center with Councilmember Jurinski, and that will be at 6:30. And that's my report, Mayor.
Councilmember Bergen.
Thank you. The only thing I have to report is my next town hall is March 20th, and it will be at Heritage Eagle Bend Clubhouse, and we will have presentation on retail. A lot of people have questions about why we don't have certain grocery stores, certain stores, so it'll be very captivating and interesting. And then I always do general updates, so that's all I have for my report.
Seeing no further business before the Aurora City Council, meeting adjourned.